Well, I went to Bradley too. I went to Cleveland and Bradley. Yeah. I didn't much care for either one of them in school at all. I wasn't long about high school either. Did you go to law school just to be a lawyer?
Yeah. Thought it'd be a good degree.
Yeah.
It's still a good degree.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a public defender now.
Yeah.
Todd G, he was here talking about public defender's office and how to do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. G gets appointed on a lot of criminal cases.
He does.
He's got his own practice, but
Yeah.
he gets appointed. He's a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. So Dr. Hughes, is it now retired Dr. Hughes?
It is retired Dr. Hughes. Yes, and thank goodness for that, because I would be a menace to society if I was still trying to practice.
Would you be writing papers for review?
I don't think so. I don't think I'd be writing anything.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was telling them I was so excited you were coming on, and they said you started your practice, and I think they said 1957. Is that right?
Well, we got married in 59. Henrietta and I got married in Memphis in 59. I graduated from medical school there in Memphis in 1959, and 3 weeks later we were married. And she had been a nurse at St. Joseph Hospital there, and a good friend had introduced us, and we seldom ever dated each other. We probably, when we got married, we probably had about 10 months that we had known each other, but seldom had dated because she was busy and I was busy, so we didn't get time to do much together. And when we did, I just usually called her. We'd go out somewhere to eat, and there's a place called the Jungle Garden over there, and it's kind of a rustic kind of place, and we always enjoyed going over there. And of course, they had some good restaurants there. They had a wonderful barbecue.
Were you from Memphis? Where were you from?
I'm Elizabethton, up here, Upper East Tennessee, 7 miles over the hill from Johnson City. My dad was a dentist up there. And Dad had grown up to the edge of Elizabethton over in North Carolina, about 40 miles away. And his first wife died, and he had a baby girl that died very shortly after she was born, about 6 months old, and his wife died right after that. So he lost, and he hadn't been married long, he lost both his wife and his baby very shortly. And then I don't know how long it was before he met Mother, got introduced to her, and they started dating. Mother was a chemist. She had gone to women's college over here in Murfreesboro. Where Murfreesboro or Middle Tennessee State used to be a women's college over there. And Mother went over there and got a degree in chemistry, BS degree. And so they.
She was a smart woman.
Yeah, she was. She was a.
That's a long list. That's a long list of educated people.
Well, it is. I'm trying to be impressive with my conversation with you.
It don't take much to look impressive. You're kind of like the Three Stooges. You're the smart one. Or
Yeah.
Mo was the smart one.
Mo was the smart one, wasn't he? Yeah.
Smartest.
Yeah, the smartest.
Oh, me.
You ever go back to Elizabethton?
Well, I don't go back as much as I would like to.
You consider...
And it's, it's just kind of tough now because we sold our house in Ananto some time back. You know, it was a 2-story house over there, and we enjoyed that. We lived there about 30 years. And then we sold that, and we've got this little villa there next to Life Care. It's a nice little house up there. So we're pleased that it's just on one level. That makes it easier for us to get around. So that's the latest development. And she's 4 years younger than I am. She's 82 and I'm 86. Soon to be 87.
Well, you don't look 86.
Well, thanks.
You look like 78, 76. Wouldn't you say, Richard?
Looks good for his age.
Well, I will have to remind folks about that. I'm going to say I don't look my age. So just don't treat me like my age. I don't look my age.
He left out, his father died when he was 10 years old.
Yeah, my father died when I was 10.
So it was just he and my grandmother together.
Yeah, and he and mother had been married 17 years, and I remember I was a kind of little scrawny kid and sick quite a bit, and I was home that day. And I saw him drive out of the driveway, and he waved at us. And we just had, in those days, you had one car. No family had a bunch of cars. We had a 36 Buick that he's drove out that driveway, and that's the last time I saw him.
How did he pass away?
He had a heart attack. I'm sure. He was a smoker, always a smoker, Lucky's and Campbell's, and I can remember when he'd come home from work, he'd get me up on his lap, and he'd blow smoke in my face. He'd be smoking.
Yeah.
And I got exposure to smoke,
Yeah.
but I guess it didn't bother me.
I guess it didn't.
And he'd been overseas, right?
Yeah, Dad had, in World War II, he got drafted when he was 18, and I think he got overseas in 19 and 18, just about the time the war was over, and he developed flu. He got that Spanish flu that killed so many. Spanish flu killed more people than the war did.
In like 1942?
It was earlier than that. It's First World War, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh.
It was First World War.
Yeah.
It was First World War. It was in 1918.
Oh.
Yeah. See, that war was 4 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just entered it. Woodrow Wilson got us into it kind of late, and that's when so many people. He just got off a troop ship and hadn't been in France very long. He was over in Brest, France for a while, and then he got the flu, and they gave him a stipend, and discharged him and gave him a stipend for life of $25. That was his stipend. But you know, $25 in those days was pretty good.
So every month, he got a check for $25?
Yeah, he'd get $25, yeah.
Wasn't worth it, was it?
No, no.
So he was 22.
That's about what he was. That's about what
Yeah.
he was. Uh-huh. Let's see. Yeah, somewhere that's about right.
You always told me you thought he'd got an enlarged heart from being sick over there, the flu.
Oh, I think
That
so.
might have contributed to his
I
death.
think it did. I think he had an enlarged heart. The flu had contributed to his death, and then been a smoker too.
So just think, I'm sitting here talking to a guy whose father was in the 1918 World War I.
That's right.
That makes you know that we're not that far removed from them. We think of that as ancient times, and it's not.
It's not really. No,
Good
it's not
point.
really.
Yes.
That's right. That's.
I mean, we've had World War II and Vietnam and Korean War and
all these wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the ones that have had all these wars, and I don't know what. I hope we don't get any more, but who knows what this. Oh, I don't want to get into politics, so I'm going to stay out of it.
but who knows?
Who knows under this current leadership what's going to develop? I'm telling you, we just don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Are you cold? Is it cold in here to you?
Feels comfortable.
No,
Okay,
I'm
it's good.
fine.
If it's
I'm
cold,
fine.
let me know.
Yeah.
So, what made you decide to be a doctor?
Well, what made me decide to be a doctor is, as a little boy, and I'd go visit my dad's parents more than my mother had 4 brothers, and she was the 5th child, but she had grown up there, up near Mountain City, just up into the edge of Tennessee, and her dad was a farmer, but he also was a school teacher, and he taught down at the little academy there at Butler. There was a town called Butler, Tennessee, that they had to remove all the people from that when the Watauga River flooded it. You remember the Watauga Lake up there. So, and that was all flooded, and you had to get people out of that. But, and Dad, I guess, I don't remember exactly anything about him. as I was growing up, other than he usually was always working as a dentist. And he worked, I guess he worked Monday through Friday. He didn't work the weekend.
And he was 32-ish when he died.
Dad was, how old was Dad? He wasn't a whole lot older than that. He was 51. He was 51 when he died. And Mother was 4 years younger. No, Mother was 8 years younger. I'm sorry, Mother was 8 years younger than Dad. They got married in 1923, I believe. 19 and 23.
Golly, that's a long time.
That's a long time. And you know, that was an interesting era there. In the 1920s was a interesting.
Well, it was the boom years, right? The
That's
20s to 25.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You know, I always think about if you were, and you fit exactly. Let's see. You know, your father would have fit. How would he have been? How old he would have been?
He'd been way up there now.
Well, he would have been in 1925. He would have been 25.
Let's see. He and Mother got married, and he was when I was born he was 41, he was 8 years older than Mother, and I've forgotten it on their marriage day just exactly how old he was, but I think he was 36.
Well, if you had those people that lived through the 1920s during the Depression and saw their families lose everything, it was hard to get those people to borrow money to buy toilet paper.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they raised their kids, which was you, a little different than we would raise our kids, not even knowing we're doing anything different.
Sure, right. Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
So what possessed you to go all the way to Memphis?
Well, I just liked the state of Tennessee.
But what made you want to be in medicine?
Well, the reason I wanted to be in medicine, they would ask me, and they call me Dickie, which I don't like that name now.
Yeah.
They say, Dickie, what do you want to be? You want to be a dentist? You know, and I always nod, yes, I sure do. I want to be a dentist. And then it just, I saw Dad standing on his feet all the time. Now the dentist sat down.
Yeah.
But he had that drill that he had to pedal. It was not the kind of drill that the electric drill they have now. So he had to pedal that drill. And Dad kept a little dental chair out at our home. We lived in Elizabethton till I was almost 5, down in the city, and then Dad bought a 40-acre farm and built a home up there, a Cape Cod type home up on the hill overlooking the valley, and that's the airport's right down there, right below where I grew up. In fact, Mother had to sell the landing apron of the land. That was our flattest field we had to the airport because of eminent domain. Yeah, she had to do that. So
tell Dee about your schoolhouse growing up.
The schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had. Well, my schoolhouse was a rock building. It was just. I spent my whole first 8 years in one building. You know, we'd be in the first grade, one room. As soon as we got through the first grade, we'd go to second grade.
How many was in your class?
I don't really remember how many. I remember quite a lot of them, but I would say about 20.
Was it like a Little House on the Prairie, that schoolhouse?
No, it was a little different. It was a little bigger than that. That's Little House on the Prairie, kind of over there. It looks a little like it. Yeah, it was a little bigger than that.
Didn't you have one teacher teaching a bunch of grades, multiple grades?
Well, we had we had different chains of teachers most of the time, but
were they like trained teachers, or were they people in the community that would lend their time?
Well, they were trained, some of them, yeah, and some I guess would lend their time, but most of them, Dee, were trained, yeah.
You have one
And,
teacher for every grade?
yeah, we had a teacher for each grade.
One teacher for each grade.
One teacher for each grade.
Yeah,
I never did experience 2 or 3 teachers teaching me in the same class.
I think that's important when you're in 1st through 5th.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
have one teacher that you can bond with instead of
yeah, exactly.
multiples.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And I remember Miss Simmons was my 1st grade teacher, and I remember one time that I kind of sickly there one day, and she decided I was too sick to stay in school, so she loaded me up in that A model Ford she had, and we went off to, and I didn't live but about a mile from school, so she drove me over and told my mother that she was bringing me home. But I remember that.
Do you think stuff like that is what caused you to want to be a doctor? I mean, a lot of times you can go back into your whole history, and there's 1 or 2 defining moments when you decide what you're going to be.
Exactly, I think so. And then a mother was.
He's always been really smart.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
He's a smart person.
I
And
tell
his
you what
mother
el-
was smart.
I tell you what else, he could have been a speaker. You notice he'll in the middle of the sentence he'll stall and he'll pronounce your name. Have you noticed that? Have you had speaking lessons?
Well, I did a little bit in high school, National Forensic League, and we put on plays
Yeah. See what
things like
I
that.
can tell
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You ought to be sitting here, and I ought to be sitting.
No,
That's
I
a good
don't-
pickup. Yeah, using people's names.
Yeah,
Talking.
in the middle, not in the beginning. He can do it in the middle.
Yeah.
What was one of the speeches?
Well, I can remember that I had, let's see, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I wrote they wanted me to write a speech, and I wrote one on the Bill of Rights. And I would take it around to different areas, other schools in the area, and stand up and say my little speech on the Bill of Rights. I can remember that. I wrote that most of myself, and Mother helped me a little bit with it. But yeah, and we always was very, I don't know, we were conscious of our country and enjoyed what it stood for.
Right or wrong?
Yeah.
Right or wrong, we're with that team.
Yes, that's right. That's
It's kind of
right.
like being in a family and you have a black sheep, but it's still your black sheep.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's still
He's
yours.
pointing at me.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
mother was a very devout person too. Very devout Christian,
Devout.
Baptist person.
What religion were you
Baptist.
raised?
Baptist.
Which Baptist?
First Baptist. First Baptist of Elizabeth.
She taught Sunday school.
And then I've been First Baptist since I've been here.
Oh, over here where they had the Wednesday lunch.
Yes. Yeah.
You ever go to that?
Yeah, I've been over there.
Yeah.
That's
That's nice.
That's really nice.
It's
Yeah.
$7.
That's right.
No
That's
tip.
right. No tip. That's right. It's nice.
Can't beat that.
Yeah, and of course, you get to know most of the ministers, and some you like, some you're not real crazy about, but you go along with them.
But his mother it was black and white. Wasn't any gray. I can remember grandmother would tell me stories. When I was small, I'd be in bed with her, and she would read me Bible
She
stories.
had no gray areas in her life.
It was right or wrong. with
That's
her.
right. She didn't much have gray. No, and see, everything now is gray.
I don't-
You can justify anything that you do. It's not quite right. It's not quite wrong, but it's all right.
I don't have any gray areas, and I'm trying to develop them because I'm not sure if it's healthy not to just be black and white.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I don't think it's that
It's
great.
not that simple. I agree.
It's
with you.
not that simple. It's
not always that
It's just
simple.
everything's just too.
I agree. I think so.
Everything's more like a stew instead of. I think of it instead of saying, "Okay, what are we having for supper?" We're having a roast, potatoes, and peas. And you go home and it's a stew.
Yeah.
And you weren't thinking of stew, you're thinking of these, and you're all disappointed. But it's really all the same thing.
Yeah.
So to me, I would be thinking separate items. Now, then, did you have to? You went all the way through 12th grade in this one school, or did you go to a high school?
I went to high school. I went to Elizabethton High School after 8 years. This was a little community up there called Stony Creek. And Stony Creek had a little area called Hunter, and I went to Hunter School, and that was about 5 miles from Elizabethton to downtown. And instead of going down there to grade school, they wanted me to stay there and where we were. So I did. I'm glad we did. And then I went to high school 4 years in Elizabethton High School, and they've built a new high school down there now.
Did you have to work through college, or how was that?
Yeah,
then?
I worked through college quite a bit. I went to Mars Hill College, which is analogous to what's the Baptist college down there in
Carson Newman.
Carson Newman. It's very similar. We
yeah.
played them in football and sports, and but it's similar to Carson Newman. And I went to Mars Hill. It was just a 2-year junior college. Mm-hmm. In those days, it's 4 years now. After I finished, I guess they became a 4-year college in '61, and now they call themselves a university. You know, if you call yourself a university, you can give PhD degrees.
You can charge more.
And you charge more.
Yeah.
For where it's worth it or not, you could charge more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's indoctrination or education?
That's a good question, Dee. That's a smart man's question to you. I don't know. I think some of it's indoctrination.
Maybe it was always indoctrination.
It could have been.
And we didn't know it.
That's probably so. It may have been. That's right. Yeah. May have been that
I mean,
way.
our biases have always got to influence us, no matter what we think. We think we're not being influenced by our biases, but we are.
Sure.
All we can do is be aware of.
All we can do is be aware.
Uh-huh.
Be cognitive of, oh, that's just one of my biases.
Yeah. Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you went to college. You went to college to be a doctor. It might have been just simply the biases that your parents put in your.
I know exactly, but speaking of work, the first 2 years I worked to get a meal. I would get up in the morning at 5 o'clock and unload the bread truck and get all the bread out for the cafeteria. We had a school cafeteria.
So you worked for the school.
Yeah, I worked for the school, to get a meal, mm-hmm. and one meal, and then I did that for 2 years.
They would call that imprisonment today. They'd call it a prison sentence, I guess.
I would doubt it. I would doubt that you're not right on that.
If you didn't do that, would you have not been able to go?
No, I would have. I helped pay for my way, but my dad was thoughtful during World War II that he bought war bonds, mm-hmm. and he would buy quite a number of war bonds for me, set aside to go to college. So when I went to medical school over in Memphis, I did have some money provided by Mother because of that, and they saved some other than that too. So I didn't have to work over in Memphis to go to.
But you did the 2-year college.
I did the 2-year college, absolutely. And then during the summer, when I was out, I would work at the bank. I was at the bookkeeping department at the bank.
Now, how did you get that job?
I got that job because the guy that was the president of the bank, Mother rented our house that we had, that we still had in Elizabethton, and he wanted to rent that house. So he and his wife, and he had one child and one daughter. They lived in that, and that was my influence to be hired by him. Yes.
So you was in the bookkeeping department.
Yes.
On your first 2 years of college.
Yeah.
You had 2 jobs basically.
That's right. I did. Yes.
But you didn't wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and unload the bread truck because it was convenient.
No, I didn't. No.
I mean, you had to.
Yeah. I felt I had to.
Yeah.
I felt I should do that. I don't know where people feel obligated to do things now for their parents. Not, parents are helping children so much
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and you wonder if the children really appreciate that.
well, and you think about this. You think, well, I'll let them fend for themselves. But you've only got a 3 or 4 year window there that you can either teach them to make it on their own or they didn't make it.
Uh-huh.
Because it's almost too late by the time you're 25.
Exactly.
So it's sort of like, I hope they learn, but I got to help them to at least. But college then it was almost more important then than it is now, wouldn't you say?
I think so. I think so, Dee. I really do. Yeah, I do.
For upper mobility, yes.
Yeah.
Now,
It
was
was
Memphis was that like a big town to you?
No, Memphis wasn't really a big town to me. I stayed in Memphis at a medical fraternity house because I could get board and room there.
What year was this?
I entered medical school in 1956 and finished in 59. It was an accelerated program, a 3-year program, but you went all year. You had about 2 weeks off for Christmas, and the rest of the time through the summer, it was a constant going to college thing.
So Elvis was unloading trucks.
Yeah, Elvis was unloading trucks. Talk about Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Well, and mother, when the girls at St. Joe, he lived around the corner, not far from St. Joe Hospital, St. Joseph, and he'd come over and entertain them sometimes, guitar and all that. And the entering girls, when they first came to the nursing school, that was shortly after that. He had bought his home out there. You remember the big stir on the home? It was $100,000.
Yeah.
Oh, we thought that was
Graceland.
He bought Graceland, and everybody thought that was really a big sum.
So
And
he was already rolling then.
he was already rolling, and he would invite the nurses to his home when they first arrived at the nurse, and the mother they got in a bus. They took them out there and bussed all the new nursing students out there. And Elvis, she can remember the impression of Elvis. He was leaning on his gate to let them come through. Mm-hmm. And she said, I never saw such a handsome dude. Said that black hair stood out. He was just something else. And he was just so genuine with all of them. Mm-hmm. Not condescending, not superior, just...
Never was
Never
he?
was.
I think that was some of his key to his early success.
I think it was.
They say he was a real gentleman.
I think he was. And, he was one of a twin.
Yeah.
The other twin died.
So your wife saw Elvis leaning against this fence at Graceland.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And she picked you.
Yeah. I guess so.
That is quite a compliment.
That's quite a compliment, Dee. And she picked me.
He had fun in medical school,
Yeah.
too. Tell Dee about that. You studied hard, but you had some
I had fun,
too.
and I had a little too much fun because Mother didn't know that. Mother was dead set on drinking. Oh, man, alcohol, you just don't do it. Dad would drink a little bit, but he didn't drink much. I never saw Dad drunk or even close to being drunk.
Yeah.
He just didn't drink around her. If he had any, it wasn't much. But Dad was two things he really liked when he wasn't a dentist was hunting and fishing. And he had a friend that was a trustee there in town, and they had a bird dog. And they would take that bird dog and they would go shoot Bob White, quail. Mm-hmm. And back in those days, there was quite a bit of quail. And they would do that, and then in the fall, they would go up in the mountains and shoot grouse. Now, you talk about a hard bird to kill. You didn't see many of those. I remember they got one afternoon, and they were so proud that they got that grouse. And I remember walking with them, and they were taking that back home. And then I remember one time, it was around Thanksgiving or something, and Dad had bought a goose. He'd bought a goose at the grocery store. to cook for Mother to cook. She cooked that darn goose all day, and it was awful. It was terrible. And I can remember they really got it was. She could. They had to toss it out. I remember that.
Maybe that's where they get that saying, "I got your goose."
Yeah, maybe so. Yes.
Tell me about having fun in medical school.
Well, I had fun in medical school. I would on the weekends. We'd just tear up Jack. You know, we would.
You mean Jack Daniels?
Yeah, we tore up some Jack. Yeah,
was that peer pressure?
I don't know. No, I don't think it was. It didn't strike me as that. Well, it may have been, Dee, because it probably was.
I mean, you weren't raised that way.
No, I wasn't raised that. And we'd all just, we did. And we had a large fraternity house in the basement. Was when we recruited other people for the fraternity that wouldn't necessarily stay there. We could have a big party down there. And it was on Lamar Avenue. Nobody could hear because it's a big stone mansion. And we'd all just get roaring drunk and us have a big old time. And well,
you said the professors would be would drink.
Oh
with
yeah,
you, right?
some of the professors would drink with me.
They can't do that today.
No,
right?
they can't do that. I remember one of my pathology professors sitting up there in the hall, and we were all leaning back against the wall, and we had my friend. He became a family physician over here in a little town in Middle Tennessee, Jerry Puckett, and Jerry was sitting there. He was out of it about, and Tebow. Dr. Tebow said he was a pathologist. He had been educated at Duke, smart guy. He said, let's see what we could do with him. He said, let's hit him on the head. Boom! We hit him on the head with a big bottle. And he went, we could have really done damage. But we did things like that. But we weren't rowdy that we got in jail. Nobody.
It was just alcohol, it wasn't drugs. That was the difference.
That's right.
See, drugs didn't come to what, 60s?
That's right.
So before then, your stomach wouldn't let you do too much.
No, that's right.
You know, getting sicker. And
that's
throw
right.
up
That's right. They wouldn't. No, you made a point.
Yeah.
We did. They didn't have drugs in that. I don't know. Richard has been faced with drugs the whole time you've been here, haven't you?
That's been our main problem, hasn't it?
Or one of
drugs came to the suburbs in the 70s when I was growing up in the 70s.
For the 70s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
You had divorces, and then that's when you started seeing drug use, and middle class.
60s was the love-ins and the
counterculture.
And the 70s they paid for it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 80s they got educated on it.
Yeah, and I could remember when we first came to town. I came to town in '67. I came in January of '67 and started work here.
Tell me about how you met your wife.
I met Henrietta through a good friend of mine, Colbert, guy, we called him Chippy. And Chippy said one day to me in school, he said, I want you to meet this nurse. And that's double date. And he had a girlfriend that he wanted to take with us. And he said, you come over to the nursing home. And by then I was halfway through medical school, and I had a car for the first time. Mm-hmm. I had a little 57 Chevrolet, which I wish I'd have kept.
Boy, yeah.
Had the fins on it and all that.
Was it a hatchback or?
Yeah. No, it was just the one with the fins on it and the 57.
Had the lights in the fins, maybe?
Yeah. It was a neat car, and I couldn't wait to get ready.
So he wanted to double date because you had the car.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah,
that's part of it. He had a car, but it was broken down. It was awful. It was terrible. I remember riding in it, and you could look in the floorboard of that and see the pavement going by.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Mine was a little better.
Yeah.
But Dee, those were fun times. I can remember enjoying.
What'd you do? Say, okay, I'll go out with him?
Yeah, I said, I'll go out with her, sure.
So he asked her?
He asked her for me.
Yeah.
And then he said, come over and come over to the nursing home. And that was like on a Friday night. And I came over there, and I thought, this is the prettiest little girl I've about ever seen. Those girls wore white, starched, uniforms.
Yeah.
And they had little caps on.
Yeah.
You know, nurses don't
Yeah.
have that anymore. And I thought, boy, this is really a nice little, I really like this. So that was, and then we started dating. And, but it was intermittent dating. Like I say, we didn't know each other much. And then after 10 months of knowing her, then that's when we got married.
That was quick.
That was really quick. Yeah.
Did you know right then? Did you know?
No, I didn't. Henrietta accused me. She said, what were you thinking? Right at the end of school, we hired a guy had a little small yacht that our class hired to go out on the Mississippi River for a celebration of getting out of medical school. So several of us went out there, and I remember I was down below in that, and Henrietta was sitting over there, and I asked her to marry me. I said, and I don't remember the details on that, but then I guess she said yes. So that.
But how did you know? You're dating her intermittently. It's 10 months before you're out. You got exams. You got finals. I'm sure that was an issue.
Well, yeah, and but you know, I was kind of I wasn't happy-go-lucky, but I thought, you know, I can handle this. I can do all this. So I did. So I had finals, and then I went down to Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, to get a license to be able to practice in Mississippi and Tennessee. You could get reciprocity. You could take an exam. Mm-hmm. You had to. You had to take before you could do that. You had to take a 4-hour exam, and then you could get. They'd give you the license to practice medicine in Mississippi and in Tennessee. So I got that, but this.
Was the intentions to stay right there?
No, it wasn't. The intentions was to. Then I went up to intern because my classmates, we had a huge room in this fraternity house, and I roomed with these two guys. We had a bed, bunk, and so forth. We had enough room for 3 of us, and we would. And then they wanted to go up into the coal country, up into Clintwood, Virginia, southeastern, where they the coal mining country. So we went up to Clintwood. I went to Clintwood. They went down below at another place, and I wasn't making but $280 a month take home pay.
Was that a lot for the?
As an intern, it was $280 a month. But then when I finished that internship and they wanted to go up there, they were going to pay us $1,200 a month. That was fantastic. So I'll go up there, and I met some of the nicest coal miners. I really did. We rented a little place from one. He had a nice little house.
So you were already married then?
I was married then. And then we got another, it was okay. It was down in an area there of our house, in the basement area. And I can remember smelling onions. She would hang onions out at the porch, and I could smell onions in there where we were renting. And I said, we got, you know, they were nice people, but I wanted to get a little different place. And then we got, this guy had just built a garage apartment, a brand new one. So we got that, and we were real happy with that because it was a nice place. And then he owned a bunch of mines himself. Just, you know, what do we call them? Not, you know, they were coal mines, but he had, and then he took me into a mine one time. Went down into.
Were you mostly working on coal miners?
Yeah, we were working on coal miners, and these coal miners were funny because the drug people would hand me a bunch of, one of the medications was esquitrol. Esquitrol was nothing but an amphetamine, you know, and they just hand them out for weight loss, you know, or, you know.
They're still doing that.
Yeah, and they still do it. Well, they don't do that anymore. They don't give samples of amphetamines to doctors anymore. But anyway, I'd have a bunch of samples in my drawer and so forth. These old coal miners come in, they wouldn't weigh any more than you did. You know, some of them thin. Doc, I just gotta have some. I need to take some weight off, and I knew what they were after. They wanted to feel.
Were you a general practitioner then?
I was a general practitioner then, and then I did that after I worked up there about a year and a half, and then I had this one over here, my esteemed son. I had him over at, it wasn't Wise, Virginia, it was over in Norton. And Norton had a Catholic hospital over there. So we would go over there to see Dr. Ingram. We had a one-eyed, he was an OB doctor. Henrietta was bound and determined she's going to let him be her OB doctor because our choice was Norman Popper that come up from Kingsport about once a month, and he weighed 350 pounds or more.
So she chose
Ingram.
A Catholic doctor over a fat doctor.
Over a fat doctor.
One-eyed Catholic.
Yeah, one-eyed.
Well,
yeah, that's a big step.
And then in Pound, Virginia, his good friend was a son was the one that was shot down over Russia. What was the
Gary
one?
Powers?
Who?
Gary Powers?
Yeah, his son was shot down over Russia. So Dr. Ingram, he wanted Dr. Ingram to go to Russia with him for the trial. They had a trial of Powers over there, and I forgot what they did to Powers. I think they sentenced him to 8 months or something like that. And he was over there, and Henrietta was afraid he wouldn't get back when she was due, you know, to have the baby, to go into labor. But he got back there about a day before she went into labor. So we were out up in Clintwood, which is about 20 miles away, and it was snowing to beat the band. And I could tell that she was getting into labor. So I said, Henrietta, we've got to, and she's starting to hurt, everything. She had had one, what am I trying to say? Can't remember. Anyway, she lost one child, and then we had then she got pregnant with Richard, and then and then when we got over there, Dr. Ingram said he had just gotten there. He said, Dick, you and Henrietta need to walk the streets. You're not ready. We're not quite ready for her to go in because she's just not really dilating very much, and you need to get her out and walk. So we walked for a while, and then I took her back after a little bit, and they put her in the hospital. And all that night I would hear women yelling with labor, and I thought that might be Henrietta, and I wasn't going to say anything to her about that, but it wasn't her. But she had a long labor. She was given anesthesia when she had him, ether. They drip ether.
They didn't have the other thing where they
epidural. They had the little Duke inhaler that would kind of give them relief for a while, and then they used ether. And in retrospect, that's not good either because they've had some problems with that. But anyway, we got him intact. He was okay.
It all worked out.
It all worked out. He might have had a few brain cells destroyed from the ether. I don't know. He might have had a few but he still
got the problem?
Yeah, that could be his problem.
Yeah. Well, either way, right?
Yeah, either way. So it was an interesting era. And then I decided that I wanted to go elsewhere because I was getting into feeling, this is up in the mountains, and this was, they had a place called Dank, Virginia, where a lot of the coal miners lived on the side of the hill, and they had these shacks up there. You drive through that. I didn't want to be up there forever, so I went down.
You didn't do house calls then, obviously.
No, you didn't.
They came to you.
Yeah, they came to you. But at any rate, I came down to, since I had interned in Nashville, they had Donaldson was an area out there. They've got a hospital out there now. I knew the they were advertising in some journal. If doctors needed a partner or needed some help or wanted to recruit somebody, a lot of times they'd advertise in a medical journal. You didn't have as many medical journals as you have now, but I saw where they right there in Donaldson, and that was close into Nashville, and I liked that area then. So I went back and they hired me, and I was the second general practitioner. There was another guy, and he'd been sick a lot, so I did most of the general practice for that. And then we had one that was I knew as a surgeon. He was a general surgeon, and the other guy was an internist. So we had 4 there that were an internist and a surgeon and general practitioner. And I didn't do that very long because I got there in September, and I got drafted. You couldn't avoid the draft. So I got drafted in the end of December of 59 or 58.
Well, that messes things up.
That messed things up. So I got, and then after I got drafted, I said, well, I've got, they want me to have basic training. So I went over to San Antonio, Texas, and had basic training for 6 weeks.
And there was no war then, right?
There was no, no, they weren't, yeah, that was right at Vietnam period.
Very early, right?
Very early.
Like real early.
Like real early.
Did you have to do basic training like everybody else?
I did, yeah. And we had about 300 doctors that had been recruited about the same time, 300 doctors and dentists and veterinarians.
Did you get any special treatment because you were a doctor, like, well, he don't need to run this hard?
No, they didn't give us any deal. And then we had classroom studies. Sit there and get bored to death. They'd give you all these information.
You thought you were done with schooling.
Yeah, I thought I was, and we had 6 weeks of that, and then we went out on bivouac for about 3 nights out in the, out from from San Antonio, out in the desert out there. And then right next to my tent, I heard this bang, boom, bing, pink, bong, 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 boom. And this guy, he was going to be a neurosurgeon. He'd gotten recruited, and he was just starting to be a neurosurgeon, and he was taking apart one of the medical service corps. They were under us. We got drafted as a captain. Mm-hmm. They had been a first lieutenant for a while, and about the time I got in, you could be you were a captain. So we were a little ahead of them. So he was trying to get some revenge back the way they want us to march and do all that thing. So he was taking apart his truck, and it's a wonder if they really hadn't got thrown him out of the Army. I don't know how that happened, but he escaped all that. But he tore down that truck. All one night he was working on that. He and another guy, I think.
Well, it sounds crazy, doesn't it?
It sounds crazy. We were all nuts. We were all crazy. And then I got a plum assignment. I got sent to San Francisco. And I went over to San Francisco, and I was at Letterman Hospital. It's a medical hospital right there on the coast. It's they sold Letterman some time ago and made a park out of it. And but it was a neat place to work. And I lived away from San Francisco. I'd go across the Golden Gate Bridge every night after work to where I lived, and they assigned me a neurosurgeon, Colonel Morier. He was the nicest guy you ever saw. He was not in the least. He was just himself. And he taught me a lot of procedures, and I'd assist him on surgery.
This is why you're in the Army.
That's why I'm in the Army there at San Francisco, and I worked with him for about 8 months, and he come down the line because one of the strongest departments in Memphis had been pediatrics. It had been really a good, strong department, and the pediatricians there were smart people. One of them was Jimmy Hughes, which he published a little textbook and so forth, and and then he had a brother that was an internist. But I could remember thinking that would be good to be, and I thought about being an internist, and thank God I wasn't an internist. You know what an internist is? It's these people that come in, well, just like my family doctor down there. He's an internist at the diagnostic clinic down in Chattanooga, and then my other one before him. And it's all you see in there is old people staggering into the waiting room, and you look at the waiting room and it's all old people. And I didn't want to deal with old people. I don't want to deal with old people yet. And I've got to deal with some of them now, but they're not, we've got some nice friends over there where we are now. But I guess they're nice friends. We think they are. Yeah.
So this Army guy, that really kind of catapulted your career, didn't it?
Absolutely. It did.
You had no idea when you was getting drafted that would.
That's right.
It almost looked like it was going to stall your career, when in actuality
it really helped. And the guy that drafted me, he knew my mother, and mother, I don't know where he didn't like mother or what, but he was bound and determined that he wanted to get me drafted. And finally it happened. He did. He got me drafted. I can't remember his name now, but at any rate.
So how was you in the Army drafted, but at a hospital?
Pardon?
How you were drafted in the Army, but you were at a hospital in San Francisco?
Yeah. Well, see, I got drafted in the Army, went through basic, and then they transfer you out to where they want to send you. After that, they have to position.
Why there?
Well, that's a good question. We had one other guy that was with me, and we were fortunate enough that we had an apartment right next to each other. His name was Carol McCauley, and Carol wanted to be an anesthesiologist, and his wife's name was Carol too, and they had one little girl, and we just had Richard. Richard was about 12 months old in that time. Well, probably not even that old, and then Richard got sick 2 or 3 times. I had to put him in the hospital because San Francisco is a pretty cool place, and it's drafty, and it's damp.
Yeah.
So
like
we had to put him in a mist tent a time or two, bring him into where the pediatric area was, and I remember that 2 or 3 times. But
the care they gave him might have helped you go into pediatrics.
Exactly. It very well may have. Yeah, it sure may have. So that's right. And then it came down the line at El Paso, Texas, where needed a pediatrician for a first-year resident. So I applied there and got accepted, went down to El Paso, and Henrietta and I decided when we were driving down there, we'd stop at Disneyland. Disneyland there in Anaheim. You've been to a meeting right there at Disneyland. And we hired a babysitter, a bonded babysitter, we were pretty stupid. The babysitter was bonded, supposed to be okay, and we left him in the hands of a babysitter, and we spent all one day in Disneyland and thought it was heaven. We just, we rode rides, we saw all this, it was not what this one is down here. This one is a better one, but it was good. It was fine. So, and then we went on to El Paso, and then spent 2 years there, and then went up to Fort Riley, Kansas.
My sister was born in El Paso.
And Lisa was born in El Paso, and
that's from that Disney World trip.
Yeah, probably wouldn't doubt that celebration or whatever, the Disney World trip. But anyway, she'd had a miscarriage, and then we were playing bridge one day with this couple that was a resident with me, and Henrietta, I could tell she was really getting in some pain, and that's when Richard was going to be born, and then Lisa, or was that Lisa? That was Lisa.
El Paso.
That was
Paso,
Lisa in El Paso. We'd already had you. Yeah, that was Lisa, and so she was born in El Paso, and Richard was born in Norton, Virginia. So they were wide spaced in various areas of the country, but I think.
No real roots at that point.
No
in
real
12 years.
roots. No real roots,
Yeah,
Dee,
yeah.
at that time. Absolutely, they weren't. But and then the Army, I spent almost 5 years in the Army. I was, and then they.
Now you had to spend what?
Well, you had to spend 2 years to be trained.
Yeah.
And then for every year of training as a resident, you know, if you're a surgeon, you had 4 years residency. If you were a pediatrician, you had 2. Internist had 3 or 4, and then you had to pay the Army back for that. In other words, for those 2 years you had to stay in the Army for that payback. So we set up to Fort Riley, Kansas, and got up at Fort Riley, and it was cold as the dickens up there. That used to be a what was that? They had horses back in World War I some, and they still had a few horses that they rode. But we stayed there about a year, and I kept writing. I'd write and said, "Can you send me somewhere else? I want somewhere else."
You were freezing.
I was freezing, and so they got me at Fort Jackson down here. And then when I got down there, they made me chief of pediatrics. I had 3 other pediatricians under me, so I was chief of pediatrics for about a year or so before I got out. Then I had my time put in, so I got out in September of 1966, and then I joined John and Hayes Mitchell over here in January.
How did you know they needed somebody?
Well, I didn't. And I was looking around across the country, and we had been over to New Orleans to look at this guy over there at one little old town over there, and I'm glad I didn't go over there because that got flooded out. He was by himself. I thought he might have had another partner, and I just went over to see. It kind of looked attractive, and I knew I didn't want that. And we were driving back through on the way home over to Elizabeth to stay with my mother, and we were driving through Cleveland, and it had some of this the interstate already built, you know, from Chattanooga up to Cleveland, that area. And I looked around.
Did you get off at the exit?
Yeah, and then I got off at the exit at Cleveland, and you had this really nice motel downtown. You remember the one that was real?
Not the shallow.
It was a Holiday Inn.
It was a Holiday Inn downtown. Was really nice.
Was it Key Street?
Cletus Benton's.
Yeah. Cleveland Benton had that.
But you got off the interstate.
Yeah. Well, I got off the interstate because it was kind of getting late, and we needed a place to stay.
You got off there and went to stay at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, stayed at the Holiday Inn, and then while I was there, I looked up in the telephone directory. I said, Henrietta, let's see if they got any pediatricians in town, and they had 2.
On a hunch, just a
hunch.
Hey, this isn't too far from.
Yeah, this is not too far from where I grew up.
They're southern, like you were.
Yeah, they're southern like I was, and I called. Hayes happened to be on call, and he said, "Well, come on, let me meet you and take you around town." So he took me around town and showed me the sights of Cleveland.
Were they looking for someone?
Yeah, they were looking for someone. I didn't know that. They were 2 of them, and they needed another partner. So he took me around town. It took him about 10 minutes to do that because there wasn't much here. You had Lee College over there and a little bit.
Yeah.
But, so then that settled that. So then he wanted me to join him. So I had to, make haste to get that done.
Did it take much thinking, or was you okay with it?
I was okay with it. I was okay with that. Yeah.
Where were they located then?
They were down. Hayes had been down there where what's the grocery store downtown on the corner down there.
Cooks.
Yeah.
Used to be Cooks.
Yeah, he used to be. He had an office down there, right close to Cooks. They had one. He was there for a little while, and I don't think John had joined him then. John joined him about 5 years before I did.
How do you go into business with a guy that you just really didn't even know?
Exactly. Well, doctors do that quite a bit, Dee. They seem to, if they like an area and they feel like they're needed, and they want somebody to come with them, they just go. And of course, that doesn't always. That marriage is not always made in heaven.
I think
because sometimes you bail out. You find out about
the wives clash sometimes.
your wives clash, or they're not doing their share of the work. Now I will give John and John Applin and Hayes Mitchell, I'll give them credit. When they were on call, they did their share of work. You know, they didn't leave it for me to do the next day if I was on call or something. So they always worked.
So you felt with that one meeting with Hayes, you felt really good.
I felt pretty good. Yeah, I did. I felt this was a good area to be in. I wasn't too far from home. Mm-hmm. And Henrietta always threw up to me, oh, you want to be home? You want to go back home?
Yeah.
Well, sure, because she grew up in Missouri, and her daddy had a bunch of land out there, mainly soybean land. He had a whole bunch of
Flat land.
He had several farms, and let's see, how many was in Henrietta's family? They had a group of 4 older ones and then 4 younger ones. Henrietta was part of the 4 younger ones.
8 now. Yeah.
And then, so
Her father was a soybean farmer.
he was a soybean farmer.
Was this about midway? Is it about halfway to where she was from?
Yeah, not too far.
Close.
Yes,
Pretty close.
yeah.
Pretty close to that. And her part of Missouri was in the Boot Hill. The Boot
Right
Hill
across
is
from Memphis.
right
yeah.
across. You cross the bridge over there, and you're right into Boot Hill, and you're right into Missouri, and you go right.
That's
up
how she ended up where she was at.
there. Exactly. Yeah. So.
Now that's about the time I was born. I was born in '65.
Okay.
So you got here in '64, 6 or 4?
I got here in '67.
'67.
Yeah. And you were born in '65.
65.
Yeah, you were 2 when I
Yeah.
came. Yeah, you were 2 years
Yeah.
old. Okay.
So I remember going to you. When you get me and Richard's age, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But then we see people at church that now have grandkids, and we knew them when they were little. So,
Yeah.
So does that, when I was there, does that seem like yesterday to you?
Yeah.
To me, it was like a whole lifetime ago.
Well, it doesn't seem that long ago. It didn't quite seem like yesterday, but it doesn't seem
Do
very
you
long.
remember specifically me being there?
Oh, sure.
Or just a...
Yeah, I do. I remember you being there. I sure do. I think so. Your mother, I think I saw you more than. Now you've.
I got a little brother.
You've got a little brother. I don't believe I saw him much. I may have some.
I had poison ivy real bad one time, all over my face and hand. I mean, it was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember you gave me a shot, and before I got out to the car, it was gone.
Well, that was good because that was a steroid that we started using that, and it really made a difference. And Henrietta, speaking of that, when she was a young girl, I guess she was still in high school, her family doctor was Rush Limbaugh's uncle. He practiced there in.
Your wife's been around all the.
Yeah. He was Rush Limbaugh. She said he was a handsome guy, young, looked good, and he'd grown up in Cape Girardeau, same place that Rush. And Rush always loved Cape Girardeau. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really did. But she hated, and he left after a little bit. I don't know where he went back to Cape or where he went, but she enjoyed him as her doctor.
Do you read that? I read Poor Richard's Almanac quite a bit because you can get more information out of that than you can get out of anything. It's got some real
good stuff.
Good stuff.
Uh-huh.
And one thing it says in there, I've known more old drunks than I have old doctors.
Yeah.
Because you would think that the doctors would know how to live longer. Mm-hmm. Is there any big secret now that you're 86? You say, oh, we should have all been doing this?
Well, you see all these you see all these changes in diet and what you should and shouldn't eat, and you don't smoke, and you stay away from alcohol quite a bit. You don't want to make yourself an alcoholic. You see changes like that. Excuse me, but I don't know where I got any great insight on how to take care of myself as a doctor as I should have, maybe.
Maybe there isn't an answer.
I don't think there is basically an answer.
They had night call back then, Dee.
Oh.
They don't do that much anymore, but it wasn't every weekend.
No,
But I remember growing up, they had to
Well,
stay.
we rotated call every third
Had to
night, every third
go in.
weekend, and that's what motivated me to finally decide to retire.
Well,
after a
what
while.
would you do? Have to just sit there and have to call the answer machine? The answer machine called you?
Yeah, that's right.
Answering
The answer
service,
machine.
yep.
Yeah, that we had.
What do
the
they
answer-
do now?
Well, what they do now is you've got that phone, you've got the basic phone that's much better. We just had a little beeper or whatever you called it, and if we decided we wanted to go out to dinner or somewhere, and I was over there with Henrietta, I'd get a call from her on the phone, and they'd want me to talk. I'd want to talk to the answering machine gal. And she'd say, well, somebody in the emergency room, they need to see you, or this or that, or a new baby up in the nursery. And the first few years, we didn't have, it wasn't, what am I trying to say, caretakers of babies like they do now. You know, they've got down.
So once they had the baby, after just a week or so, it was almost your deal.
Yeah, that's right.
Till they were how old?
Well, I saw patients till they were in their 20s.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We'd see them from babies, and they'd go. Several of my patients would be in college, and if they were home and got sick with something, poison ivy, sore throat, or whatever they had, they would come and see us. Yeah. So we had several older. I saw teenagers about as much as I saw babies. Yeah, I did.
It was legal, right? I mean, when you say pediatrics, you think, oh, they've got to be under 6 or something.
Yeah,
but
that's right. It's no. And they started that seeing older patients. They had a specialty out of older, what was it called? Adolescent medicine. I think it was called adolescent medicine. And you could make a specialty out of that by just taking care of adolescents. But I didn't want to do that. And that originated in California. A lot of things happened there in California that,
Is it still a big thing in California to be a specialist in adolescents?
Not necessarily, no, not anymore.
The adolescents don't really go to the doctor, I guess.
No, that's right. They don't. I don't ever hear that anymore. And before I retired, when did I retire? When did I retire, Richard? It's been a while now. I guess it was 93.
Yeah,
It was 90.
mid-90s.
It was in the 90. I retired in 93. Yeah, and Hayes had retired in 87, and John and I needed another partner. And back in those days, they would have these doctors that wanted to be hired or somewhere. They would advertise maybe in a journal or so forth, and we paid for this guy, and he was in what's the onion that everybody likes, the sweet onion?
Vidalia.
Vidalia. He was in Vidalia, and I called the administrator of the hospital, and he thought he was the finest thing there ever was. He was just great. So okay, we got him and talked to him, and he had trained down in Chattanooga in pediatrics some, and interned down there, and he had a real nice wife, and we thought this guy's going to be fine. But after a few weeks, the nurses in the nursery or other places say they couldn't find him. He'd be on call, and they'd try to find him, and he wouldn't answer the phone. Or if he'd answer the phone, they couldn't get him, so we couldn't have that. And I told John one day, and I hated to do that because I wasn't big on firing anybody, but I said, we got to get rid of him. So I just we just called him in and talked to him and said, this is what we've got to do, and that's the way you are. So, and then he went up to Manchester, up here.
Did you just leave on his own after you told him that?
Yeah, he had to. Yeah, he had to leave on his own. Then he got up in Manchester up here not too far out of Nashville, and stayed a while. And I really liked his wife. His wife divorced him. And then one day I loved Palm Springs. I went 5 years to Palm Springs to a pediatric meeting. The California pediatricians had a real good meeting there every year in mid-March, and it was perfect because it wasn't hot yet, and it was just fine, and we'd stay a few days out there. And I remember one time we went out there, I believe that was, I forgot, mid-90s or something, when you had the big snow here.
92.
I believe it was 92,
Yeah.
and we got out there, and it was starting to snow when we got on the airplane down here. And then we got over there and forgot all about that, and then came back after about a week. We stayed a little longer than we usually do. Usually stay about 3 days. We stayed about a week, and it was about over when we got back here. But my next door neighbor out in Annantoe took pictures of the house and all that. You had a big snow.
Yeah,
it was ready.
And it melted about as quick as it came down.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, like 2 days.
Yeah.
So did you see that guy when you were in California?
Yeah, I saw him at the medical meeting there, and we were friendly. We were okay about everything. You know, I didn't. He decided to attend that medicine. I guess that meeting from where he was over there, and I don't know whatever happened to him after that, because his wife then, I heard, had divorced him. So I don't.
What year did they end the night call?
Yeah,
Dad?
that's my question. When did they stop
When did
that? Because he was starting to see that evidently, right?
Yeah. Well, the night call, I was, it was. I don't know when the night call. Dee.
And who would you call now if you had a problem at night?
Well, that's another good question.
Go to the hospital.
Yeah, you go to the emergency room.
And
The
then
emergency room covers it all.
Yep.
You go to the emergency room, and that covers it all. Then they call the doc. They call whoever your doctor is, if they can do that.
They have the hospitalist, right?
Yeah.
The doctors, they're
Yeah.
just stationed
Yeah.
there at the
And
hospital.
now, as an intern,
They taken over the pediatrician night call.
The night call for these sick babies, I always dreaded that, because I hated for them to call me and have to make a decision on where I needed to transfer the baby to Chattanooga to their unit down there or not, because we didn't have anybody that was making. We there at the end, I could call, and they get if it's really a sick baby, they could get a helicopter up here and land it down there about where Church of God field is from the hospital, and take the baby down there. But then they had these nurse practitioners now every night. They've got somebody over here at Tenova that if they've got a bad baby in that nursery, they've got one of those women that are all, they rotate.
That's really handy, right?
That makes it really handy, and it's much easier on a pediatrician.
Now, before, they wouldn't call you because they had a real bad sore throat at 10 o'clock at night. If you got the call, there was a problem, right?
Not necessarily, Dee. I got these people that call you if they had a hangnail.
Oh.
Yeah. You'd get all these crazy.
And then you'd have to make the decision.
Yeah.
Is this important or not?
Yeah. I'd have to make a decision. I'd say, well, you just make an appointment in the morning, come in, or if you feel it's necessary, you can go to the emergency room. You know, I'd
So
do
you
that.
had a phrase there.
Yeah, you had a little period where you could tell them. I can remember a few patients that just overabused that all the time about something, not really a big deal about their grandchildren or their children. So, but times have really changed about the way doctors respond now.
If I go out to eat, I'll have 5 decks to figure the next week. People see me out just eating. I almost don't go out to eat because everybody wants to come up and ask you about your profession or whatever it is you do.
Yeah, they do. That's right.
I guess that's a sign we're going out to eat more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not necessarily that, because people go out to eat more now than they used to.
Oh, sure they do. Yeah, we do that.
So they see you out more. It's not that they're asking more; you're going out more.
Yeah. Now, one of our friends' benefits that we have over here at our little villa, there next to Life Care, is we get 2 meals a day. They will give us 2 meals from the dining room.
You have to go over there?
No, you can go over there, but they deliver it now. And so we'll have most of our meals if I want a breakfast. Now, the breakfast, you have to, whether you want it or not. That's just part of the...
You have to go over there?
Yeah, well, they can bring it to you. You don't have to go over there, but that's a standard. You can't decline the breakfast, but you don't have to eat lunch. You know, you don't have to eat the 3. Now, if you eat lunch, then you're going to have to pay for that. One of them you have to pay.
So they knock on the door or what?
Yeah, they knock.
What time?
Well, usually about 9. About 9 o'clock, I'll order it, and now about 9 o'clock they'll do it.
So it's almost like room service in a motel?
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. And of
They
course,
bring
yesterday.
They bring a card or they bring
Yeah, well, they've got a little delivery cart that they take
like
around
a food truck, I guess?
Yeah, around where the villas are. And I think we got about 30 villas over there. Well, yesterday morning, didn't hear, I had ordered it earlier, didn't hear from anybody, and I looked out there, and the food was sitting out there out there in front at my front door, around where the walkway is. She'd left it. And I picked up the phone, I said, this food's cold. You know, I don't expect you to do it now, but you need to tell her that's not the way it happens. To bang on the door if they don't hear me. They ring the doorbell.
Yeah.
Neither one of us heard it. So that's the answer to that. And the darn food's not worth a flip half the time. I don't know where the cooks back there have so many people to cook for.
Was it like salt?
It's not so much lack salt, it lacks something because it ain't good.
Tabasco?
Flavor.
It lacks flavor, Dee. It's not worth a damn. That's what it is. It's
When you say it's good and bad,
What about what is it? Like, do you order what you want?
well,
or
yeah, they've got a menu.
Standard menu?
Standard menu. They'll give you one for a week. Like I've got the menu now from.
It sounds like a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it is a lot of trouble. But see, we can get those, and the meals are free, so we like to be able to do that if we can. But we end up, I guess about half the time we get the food, half the time we don't. I'll pick it up somewhere else. We're a Cracker Barrel fan, so I'll pick up a lot of food at Cracker Barrel.
How about
we'll go over do what?
How about the Old Fort?
Well, the Old Fort I haven't been too much. It's supposed to be good food over there.
It's good food, yeah.
Yeah, it's good food.
How about the little diner on First Street?
Now,
buddy, that is good. It's fat, salt, and everything you want.
Well, I've got to remember that.
Oh, it's good, yeah.
Now, it's just so many hours, though, isn't it?
No, they're open. They've been open this whole time.
Okay, but is it from morning to evening, or is it just like 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
You know, I'm not sure about that.
I believe it's at 2.
I've eaten breakfast there and lunch there.
Yeah, okay.
But you can call. By the time you get there, it's ready.
Okay.
And sometimes it's $10.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cheap.
Sure, cheap. Yeah, well, see, Kelly, that's was a McClanahan. What was she? She wasn't a McClanahan. What's her maiden name?
No, McGowan.
McGowan. She was a McGowan.
Oh.
And her daddy.
That's right.
That's
right.
Corky.
Corky was her daddy, which she can't stand. She won't fool with him.
I remember that.
Yeah. And Polly, the mother, and he divorced. And
then you got Rob.
Yeah.
Rob.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
Rob's her brother.
He's a really nice guy.
He's really a nice guy, and he's made a
done well with that business, mashing hops.
Yeah, he's done well over there at Mashing Hops.
He's got a way of just handling business.
Well, he does, and I really like Rob. He's a gentle guy, and I do.
He's soothing, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
He should have been a psychologist.
He should have been something other than maybe selling you food.
Yeah.
He could have, but and his girlfriend is just really like him too.
I don't know her.
What's her name? Beth.
Beth Fennel.
Beth Phillip.
She runs the press on the other side. There's mashing hops and she's got
Is
the
that
press.
Rice? Yeah.
Beth, she's a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's her other job.
Yeah. So
They've done well with that business.
yeah, they have done well with it, and I had my doubts about that because I didn't know where you'd be able to do that or not, but it has
Evidently.
evidently.
And it was the right timing because it was outside during COVID.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think what people eat is really important, or you think it's just a matter of your genetics?
Well, I think it's really important what you eat, and I'm not very good at that sometimes. I know a lot of people are. They're very conscious of what they eat and read about, what's better for them. But yeah, I think that. But I think it's a lot of it's genetics too. I think a lot of it's genetics.
Just watch how you're born.
Exactly how you're born. That's right.
Cholesterol, for instance.
Yeah.
I guess genetic link.
Yeah. Well, I think
Cholesterol.
cholesterol may have a genetic link, and I've always had, of the four changes in your cholesterol and so forth, my triglycerides have been fine. My what else has been fine? Triglycerides and high density has been fine, but the low density lipoprotein has not been good, and one other. So, but
aren't they saying now that cholesterol thing's kind of doesn't really matter?
I think a lot of it's. I think so, Dee. I think they're getting better with that. About not sure that's so important.
There's good and bad cholesterol, right?
Yeah. Well, see, I have I have the two bad ones, and I've got the two good ones that balance them out. They say if you've got triglycerides are good and your high density HDL's good, then your low density, if it's not good, it's always been up, then it'll kind of correct itself a little bit.
You know what I think? I think that they take all these averages, and they say this is the average that people should be,
Mm-hmm.
and people aren't average.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we wouldn't even have the same average opinion, much less, So I think they try to fit people in those averages, and when you're outside of the average, you're outside of the average, we need to give you this to bring you inside the average. When this guy maybe he just runs better on higher blood pressure or lower blood pressure.
Sure.
Or more salt or less salt.
Mm-hmm.
Or
That's true.
I mean, does that
That's
make
right.
sense?
Yes, it makes
I mean,
sense.
it's a good baseline
to
try to put people in there, but
Yeah.
But to try to make people fit, if you feel fine, what's the point?
That's right, and it's just like trying to make me fit into being a Democrat. It's not going to be easy for anybody because I'm not going to be one. They're about to ruin the country.
Well, what if?
I don't
Well,
know
what?
how you feel about politics, but
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But he's making a really good point that I've heard before.
Yeah.
In that average, Dad, they'll want to put you on medication if you're outside the average. They
Yeah.
keep you on that medication.
Even though
for
you're
life,
fine.
Even though you feel good.
Yeah, that's right.
I think
it's like
some of the
remember that Monty Python movie? Did you ever watch Monty Python?
Oh yeah.
Remember when they're going through the place and they said they were picking up the dead during the pandemic, and they said, bring out your dead, and they're ringing the bell. And they pick up this guy, and he says, I'm not dead yet. And they said, well, you will be soon. He said, no, I'm not. I feel fine. They said, no, you'll be sick. I always think about that. If you feel fine, what's the point in trying to go and get? If I see my neighbor has knee surgery, I'm limping for 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't help it. I'm a hypochondriac. I'm just better off just to live and let God handle it.
Yeah, I know. I think so, and I think if a lot of people would realize that, they'd be better off.
I mean, and not be ridiculous about anything.
But now the idea is put you on medication.
Yeah, you
Bring you into the average.
Get your prescription.
Bring you into the average.
Yeah.
Well, and we're just medicated to death. We're just medicated to death. You've got these people. When I used to go to, because I've got AFib, and that's what gave me a stroke. I had Dr. Morrison did.
What's AFib?
AFib is it's a arrhythmia of the heart that you've got a normal sinus rhythm, and you've got bradycardia, which is slow heart rate, and you've got tachycardia, which is fast heart rate, and then you've got AFib and some others. And AFib has a tendency, it's just a little different heart rate and the way you see the electrocardiogram, and it can throw off a blood clot. So one time after Dr. Morrison did my surgery, I had a mitral valve prolapse that I had been followed several years for, and he felt it was time now to one of my cardiologists up here on the hill from a Memorial was following me up there, and I hated him. He was indifferent. He doesn't practice anymore. You go in his office and he's just indifferent. I can't stand a damn indifferent doctor.
Now, what do you mean by indifferent?
Well, just, whatever you say. No, he wasn't interested.
Always it.
He wasn't
If
interested.
you said blue, he'd say green.
Yeah, he just wasn't interested in you. You could tell he wasn't. And but at any rate, we got several of these ultrasound of my heart for a while, and then he was doing that too darn much. And then I just went down to when I had that stroke after Dr. Morrison. Dr. Morrison down here, I don't know where you know about him or not. He's just a fabulous heart doctor, and he's really got a good reputation. Loves to do surgery. They say they can call him 3 o'clock in the morning, he's ready to go. It doesn't matter if he's operating day and night. He just loves to operate.
Does he give it even when he don't need it?
I don't much think he does. He might.
That'd get him in trouble. Right?
Yeah, get him in trouble.
Is a good doctor just natural? Is it a gift?
I think it is. I mean,
study's one
it's
thing.
It's just like he's a good
Sure,
a good attorney.
he's one of the best.
He's one of the best. That's right.
That's gifted.
That's gift. That's right. That's what God gave him.
Mm-hmm.
It
Now,
didn't-
the other
it wasn't
stuff is-
necessarily from me and Henrietta. God gave him that. Yeah, we probably contributed a little bit.
You got some people that are really good in school, obviously, good test takers that become doctors, but like you said, they're not really
They're
good
not
at
good.
it.
No.
But they sailed through because they're so smart.
Oh yeah, that's it.
They might not have
the
the
system
engagement
allowed
or the.
them to conform.
Yeah, the system allows them to conform, and
Yep.
a lot of these that are good test takers and do real good high scores
Well, it's
are
like
not
that. It's-
necessarily a good doctor.
What is that they taste? The SAT or
Yeah.
ACT or something?
Yeah.
That's another thing of fitting people into this, to this. I call it like the Gulf Stream, or this main.
Yeah,
I mean, who's to say who's intelligent because they're able to calculate this on a test that you can take in 6 hours and reading comprehension or whatever.
yeah. That's
I
right.
agree with you.
I mean,
it excludes
that
some good
has
people.
It has nothing to do with intelligence, and that can cause them not to go to college, cause them not to be in the field that they want to be in.
Sure.
Because they don't do well in those standardized
So
tests.
who's to say? I hate to hear these colleges, places say, "Well, I hope I'm smart enough to get in." Why couldn't you get in?
Uh-huh.
Do they have 4-year colleges that are public?
Yeah.
I mean, if say you got a real low, the old joke is, what do you
If
call
you're
it?
breathing, you can get in.
Yeah. Well, no, the old
There's
joke
open
is,
universities that are more. Yeah.
But the old joke is, if you're, what do you call a guy that makes a 70 on the medical exam?
Uh-huh.
Doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
guy that scored the lower score.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still a doctor.
He's still.
Still a doctor. Yes, that's right.
Did you hear about speaking of the dentist, did you hear about the little boy that's in the dentist chair and he grabs the dentist and says, "Now we're not going to hurt each other, are we?"
Yeah,
I always think of
know,
that,
and that was so funny. Dad did a few fillings for me, which stayed good for years, they've said. Dad was a good dentist, but he was operating not with the best equipment as they have now.
Sure.
They've got those high-speed drills
Yeah.
and all that, and better anesthesia. And but I can remember getting some of these fillings and he'd grind down on that tooth. They go, and you know, he give you a little anesthesia, and I thought I'd go through the roof on that. I mean, it was painful.
Yeah.
But it's not as painful now as
If I
that.
go to the dentist, I don't feel anything, no matter what they do. They've got it down to science.
Oh, they have. They've got it down to
to
science.
science.
They take care. They got just enough anesthesia to put that.
They put it on the finger,
Yeah.
and then they put the shot where it's numb, and
Oh yeah.
you don't feel
nothing.
anything
No, you don't.
till you go pay.
That's right.
Then it
Then
hurts.
then it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's right, Dee.
Do you think that years ago the idea was they didn't want to exercise and overdo the heart, and it kind of there was sort of a period there when they didn't want to tax the heart. Now our society is almost in a position where the idea is to tax the heart, to exercise and to jog and get your heart rate up. And
Yeah.
wasn't that before? Wasn't there an era where that wasn't the thing to do?
Exactly. Exactly. When my dad died in 1945, that hadn't come into effect. Not really. No, it was sometime after that. And then, stupid me, I started jogging. And I jogged when I had a period that I wasn't on call, or I had a brief period during lunch hour.
Yeah.
When I was, go to lunch, I'd go over and jog on the high school track, and then run up the bleachers.
bleachers, yeah, was tough.
That was tough, and that ruined my knees. And I have no cartilage in these knees. That's why they bother me, because that arthritis.
Well, what did you overdo it?
I guess I did, and you just pound. You
So
don't
maybe
get-
there's a fine line.
There's a fine line there. You can do a certain amount of that and then lay off of it.
Between no exercise and being obsessive. Some people are obsessive about exercise.
Obsessive, yeah.
Yeah, they are. That's
And
right.
some don't do anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't
I
walk.
ride bikes with these guys, and it's about 2 hours of running for your life, if that's about what it's like, and they'll just absolutely kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want to do that.
No.
I want to get my heart rate up real good, about 30 minutes or an hour, and I think that is a little more is the happy medium.
I do too. I think so. Yes. Well, I just wish I had common sense enough to not try to do what I did all that time. But it does relieve stress. That exercise when you're jogging, you're not thinking of anything much, and
It's good for you, but how
it's-
much of it's
yeah, that's
necessary?
right.
That's what Dee's saying. It's
good.
good.
And see, Richard
I
has got
exercise
it
a
down
lot.
to a fine art now.
What do you do, Richard?
He's pressed metal for years.
At the fitness factory. on
Oh,
Georgetown.
yeah.
I've been there
Yeah.
since high school, I guess.
Yeah, he goes over there 3 days a week.
Does they get a lot of business now, or what?
Not what it was, Dee. It's Carter Stacy owns it. It's got good equipment, but the membership's way down because there's a lot of competition now. You got a lot of gyms now.
Would there be 10 people in there when you're in there?
I go usually early in the morning. Usually not that many.
What time
Now
do you-
late, I go 7:30, between 7:30 before work. Now in the afternoon, I think
Well, you do take a shower there, or what?
yeah. I like to work out before I go to work. Some people like to go to midday or after work. Now in the afternoons, they've got a good crowd there. 4:35.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to commit to afternoons. I don't know what my days get like.
Right.
But the mornings I could. So there's not hardly anybody in there in the mornings?
There's few gym rats like me in the morning. Not that are regulars. The way the gym is, you get people. I mean, they get in the routine of going and they go.
Yeah.
And then some people just never like the routine of a gym. They won't stick with it. They just don't like it.
They'll go in January and first week in February.
That's what they say. Yeah, you go and then they get bored. I guess it bores a lot of people. Exercise does.
Well, in the mornings though, it's if you go to the gym and then get ready, you got to take all your stuff with you.
I have to do that. Yep. I like having it out of the way. Go, get my workout done, then I'm finished.
But you have to take your take your white shirt with a hanger?
Yep. Take my gym bag, take all that stuff. Yeah.
You got to pack it the night before?
Yeah.
You have a locker there?
They have lockers there. Yeah.
You have one that you just keep for you?
I just bring my stuff every morning.
No need to lock it up because there's not anybody there. That's gonna...
There, I leave it in the car till I'm done. Yeah. I've never had to stand in line to work out.
Well, that's worth something, isn't it? How much is their membership?
Huh?
How much is their membership?
I pay $150 a year total.
If
And
you
I got a
wanted-
key. I love it. I can go anytime, 7 days a week, any day or night. Little extra for a key.
Boy, that's incredible. If you wanted somewhere to work out, that's where to go.
I like it. Yeah, you want the convenience of being able to go anytime, whenever you
You
feel
worry
like
about
it.
getting the fungus from the showers?
Well, my wife worries about that. She's during all this COVID. Carter was shut down for a while, but not very long. These gyms are not the cleanest places. I don't care what they're doing.
I mean, would you wear flip flops in the shower or something?
No, I'm probably not as
But it hadn't bothered
conscious.
you yet.
It hadn't. The gym's it's a germ factory.
You ever call him with a medical problem?
I do. Thankfully, I hadn't had much going on.
He hadn't had a whole lot going on. They're good about that.
He used to be my doctor for a long time. He would be able to-
How was that like?
Well,
I mean, how could you look at it objectively? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't always, but if it was really a serious sort of thing, and if I felt was out of my control or didn't know about, I wouldn't have him do that. Just like
He had his scope.
Yeah.
He'd look in your ear, look
Yeah,
in your throat,
yeah.
find a sore throat.
Yeah. That sort of stuff, fine.
Yeah.
You still have that, don't
Oh
you?
yeah,
You
have
otoscope.
it. Otoscope and look.
He always
the
had the
eyes,
otoscope.
ears,
The stethoscope.
and
Yep.
stethoscope
Check
and so
your-
forth.
Yep.
And a lot of these young doctors now, that stethoscope is just an ornament for the neck.
They
They very
say
seldom use it. Yeah,
they say some of them when they leave instead of grabbing their coat they grab their stethoscope so people will know
Yeah.
when they leave them.
Yeah.
Instead of grabbing their coat they grab their because they don't need it. When people yell in those stethoscopes, that doesn't do anything, does it? You know, on these comedy shows they always yell inside them, but that
That doesn't do much.
why do they?
Well, you've got a diaphragm there that's sensitive. It goes up that
Yeah.
tube. You hear that noise, but I haven't had anybody yell into my stethoscope much. I hope I don't.
If
ever.
you do, would it be louder?
Yeah, I guess you'd hear a little noise, but I don't. It's not. It doesn't magnify it that
It's
much.
not that thing.
No.
What do you do when you put? What gets me is they'll say, "Okay, breathe heavy," and they put that on your back, and then and they ask you a question, and I'm thinking, don't you want to be quiet so you can hear?
Yeah.
But they're talking to me.
Yeah, that's right. And it's amazing the people that's supposed to be into the heart, the lung and heart business. A lot of times are not listening, not using that stethoscope much.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if they are, they're asking you a question.
Yeah,
And
sure.
how can they be talking to me and listening?
Well, that's a good. That they're not.
Yeah.
Not very. They're not.
Or
They're,
Yeah.
or now they're outsourcing all that, of course. They'll have the nurse or the physician's
Well,
assistant
yeah,
do it
yeah.
all now.
They've got a
Doctor
lot,
rolls in.
Yeah, the doctor rolls in, and the doctor's outsourcing a lot of this now. Physician's assistant.
Yeah.
Which I've
Some
ran
of 'em are
into a
good,
lot
yeah.
of good ones that are fine. I don't want to knock them all, but
Some of them may be better than the doctors.
Exactly.
Because they actually getting practical every
Yeah.
day. And
Right.
maybe the doctor's just reading the journals.
yeah, or he's doing something else.
Or they're putting stuff in the computer now.
They're
You go to the
putting-
doctor, he's got his laptop and he has to put
He's
all
more
that
they're more concerned about getting that stuff wrote
data,
down on that
getting
thing,
data.
so they don't get sued.
I guess so. Part of it.
Maybe the lawyers are the problem.
Yeah,
He would say that.
Lawyers could be the problem.
He would agree with that.
Yeah, the lawyers are a problem.
Lawyers are a big problem.
The lawyers are a big problem. I agree with that. But
Well,
I tell you what.
You know, a big bad lawyer gets sick and he don't know what that spot is, though he'll be like a little baby, won't he?
Sure.
Scared to death.
Yeah, sure they are. Yeah.
Didn't you always say that boys were worse than girls about the shot when you used to give shots at the
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we'd have to hold them down
Your
and
boys were
cry
usually the
and
worst
carry
of
on.
girls.
And we used to like to not do that. We had one nurse up there, Nurse Gray. She'd be up there in the center of the hallway there. We had 4 rooms each. And then when they came up there to get administered a skin test or a shot or something, they all dreaded her because she'd shoot those shots. It's like throwing a dart.
Oh.
At them.
She didn't fool around.
Yeah. But
Now, somebody told me you had the same bookkeeper the whole time, or office assistant.
yeah, we did. We kept one of the bookkeepers. Al Jennings was professional management out of Atlanta. That was his organization, and he took care of the 3 of us and other doctors, some in the area too. Yeah, he was.
No, I think they said Alta. Was it
Well,
Alta?
now that's true. Alta was our receptionist.
Yeah.
Alta was for years our receptionist, and I won't get into the story about her, but we had a recognition of what happened there with her. She was stealing money from us.
Oh, is that right? I had no idea.
Stealing money from us. And they would say, they'd get up there to pay, and she'd say, oh, we'll send you a bill or whatever, or she'd go ahead and collect it, and, supposed to write it down or whatever, and she wasn't doing it. So she took us for a fair amount of money, but we're not the only doctors that's happened to. Several around
No,
here.
That's common.
That's
Yep.
common with doctors.
Yeah.
It's not so common with general contractors.
No, I bet it didn't.
No, because we're managing somebody else's money.
Mm-hmm.
You actually put more emphasis on it than you would if you're managing your money.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because you almost feel an obligation.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Do you think that people's general health is the same as it was then? Now, in general,
I don't know about that, Dee. I really don't. I don't think it's.
Obesity's got to be worse.
Yeah, it is.
are more people heavy?
There's a lot of heavies.
Because of the food. It's just because of the fat. It's just processed food.
And all you've got to do to get really entertained, Henrietta will wait on
It's
me
too
because
easy.
she broke her hip, and she's had a devil of a time getting over that. She had AFib too, which didn't help. But we were watching a movie one night, and she just fell on that little thing. We had a little tile floor between our bathrooms. I've got a bathroom over here, and she's got a bathroom over there, and they've got 2. We've got a 2-bedroom sort of situation, and she just fell on that tile floor and broke her hip. Bless her heart, she's had a rough go with that. But it is just, I don't know. And I don't know the concern that the doctor should have for you. That for instance, we have a doctor by the name of Dr. Jacoby, which is she got lung cancer, and she had that lung cancer that was supposed to live long with it. It's small cell cancer of the lung, but they happened to get it early, and we saw those lymph nodes right in the middle of the chest here underneath the sternum. So I guess it happened, but they sent it to a pulmonologist, and he of course biopsied the areas and all, and then he comes back and he tells me how bad it is, and it's not going to live long and all that. And then I tell her oncologist that's trying to give her the chemotherapy and so forth. I said, why is he doing that? I don't need to know the specifics on that. He could say, well, it's and give people some hope.
Well,
Yeah.
he doesn't know.
No, he doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
No, and
he didn't know.
And he did know. And
he got it wrong.
And he got it wrong, and she's 8 years out now.
Been in remission.
And it's been, and so, yeah, and I just hate that. And I told Dr. Holland, I said, I don't need him to tell us that. And then he had a PA that he wanted to sign to her, and the PA was saying the same thing. Well, you're not going to be here long. Well, they'll see me in 6 months. No, I don't know where I'll see you or not. You know, don't need that. We don't need that. You know, give people hope.
Well, they don't know.
And they don't know. That's right.
She was actually going to one doctor, right? And he was the one that saw the lung, the
Yeah. Well,
cancer.
no, she was going to one
being treated for
well
something
treated
else.
for that AFib, and
Yeah,
he was
he
trying
picked
to.
up on the
Two or
cancer.
three. There was 2 or 3 things that he was trying to do.
Which was good.
They could shock the heart. They've got a thing that they could shock her with, and then they've got procedures that they could do to try to relieve it. And then one day she was down there, and he tried to shock her 3 times. She had all this edema on her ankles and her legs and all that, and he wanted to send her home, back here. So okay, well, all right. I didn't like that because I knew that the heart was not. It was like in heart failure. So we got back, and the next morning she got up. She's Dickett. She said, "I can't breathe." So I just immediately called the ambulance, and we took her down immediately down there, and we put her into the emergency room, and we had a young doctor down there. It was really very, very nice. He's very good about this. And then this older woman that had been working in the emergency room there at Memorial forever, a long time, she ordered just a standard chest x-ray there to do while she was in there, to set up in the room and do that. And then she came back in a little bit. She said, "It looks like cancer." She said, "It looks like you may have cancer here." And that's the first time we had been in there to be evaluated by Memorial, and it was before Tenova. What was the other? Before Tenova.
Bradley Memorial.
Well, it was Bradley Memorial, and then there's,
HCI?
yeah, they was, what was the other? The other one.
HCI.
Yeah, but at any rate, they had taken x-rays. Everything's fine. No, it wasn't fine. Then they took a Memorial on a weekend. You don't want to go to the hospital on a weekend. You ain't going to get a darn thing done.
They're just
much
going to
till
put you off till Monday.
Put you off to Monday. So they got a few x-rays. The rest of it was okay. It wasn't okay. And that little smart-ass cardiologist, she a little female, she came in there. Yeah, it's all right. You just fine. Well, she wasn't just fine. So I got tired of that, and I spoke to somebody, one of the answering service things for them. One of them, I said, "What doctor you think would be good down there?" And she told me about this other doctor, and so I just canceled him out. That one that he'd been seeing, the Memorial doctor, and I've got Dr. Manion. He's an Indian, tall, good-looking Indian. Just as
Well, they're smart, aren't they?
amazing. He's amazing. He married a white girl. She's an anesthesiologist.
He's an impressive guy.
He is very
Nice as he
impressive.
can be.
If you ever need somebody for your heart, get Dr. Manion.
Manion?
M-A-N-Y-A-M. He
Manion.
may have a heart doctor.
Manion,
I don't know where he
Manion.
does or not.
Manion.
Manion.
Yeah, he's down in Chattanooga.
M-A-N-Y-N.
Well, he comes up here once a week.
Now,
down
how
there.
long did it take you to get in with him?
Well, it's
mean-
it didn't take very long. See, when I had that stroke, and they met me in the place to go for the stroke is Erlanger. You go to Erlanger for the stroke thing, and when I got there, Dr. Devin is the guy to go for the. They said is really the best for the stroke, and Dr. Golding is the best for the heart. Well, I got lucky. I got down there, and I got to see the way I found out there was something wrong with me. I went to the bathroom one night, and I just collapsed. I couldn't get up. I just fell down, and I couldn't get up, and I lay there on the floor. I was conscious, but I didn't have sense enough to call Henrietta and say, "Henrietta, I've got something wrong with me." And I waited a little too late, but I got down there, and they said the clot, fortunately, was breaking up. They've got medication now, Dee, that they can give, to break up
Thins
clots.
it, like statin or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah, and if you give it within the first 2 hours of the stroke. But I got fortunate on that, and then they had to keep me in the emergency room for 3 days because they didn't have room up on the neurology unit. So they had a little area off to the side over there that put me in a little area that gave some privacy. So I had 3 days down there listening to all the noise in the emergency room. You know, you could hear it right out there, and they were all night long. Now, his daughter is going with a urologist down there. He's about to, Hallie is Michael.
Is she going to be a urologist?
Well,
That's her boyfriend.
that's her boyfriend, and it's a 5-year residency, and he's had 3 years. Michael, they say
He's a surgeon.
he's a surgeon, and they say he's amazing. They have said to him that he's the best they've ever had. He wanted to do robotics.
That where they take out your prostate?
Well, he could take that. He's done that. But robotics is where you control the equipment.
Yeah.
And he grew up in upper state New York, but he had read about Erlanger being one of the largest medical complexes in the country, one of the 8 largest, you know, for general deal. And they did robotics, so that's why he decided to come down here. But Michael's something else. They said that he's got the steadiest hand that they've ever had a surgeon. They said Michael's hand is the steadiest that operates, which is a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah. My hand would be like this.
Oh yeah, me too.
But
No.
he was very fortunate, Dee. He obviously he could have fallen down the steps or been
Yeah,
driving the
yeah,
car. And for 3 days, I mean, he had partial paralysis. You know, the drooping face. I mean, I was worried about him.
Well, see,
When was this?
this
It's
was
been a couple years ago.
Oh, it's
Because
been,
you don't show any
yeah.
signs of...
Yeah, it's been
He
about.
really doesn't.
It was about 2000 and.
What did they do for you?
Well, when I got in there, they met me and immediately took me to get an MRI to check to see about where the clot was, and it was fortunately breaking up. And then they assigned me the nurse to take care of me. And then when I got up on the neurology after 3 days, they found a bed up there that I could go to, and then they started walking me. And they would walk and walk and walk, and all of a sudden I was slurring words. It was all affecting the right side. This was over here, and it was affecting the right. So I couldn't bring this hand down very well at first, and I was walking with a limp. It was all affecting the right side, but then that got better. And right about the time I left, which I stayed about a week, that was about to disappear.
So if you hadn't have gone, they didn't really do anything for you.
No, that's exactly right. They really did what you said. They basically didn't do anything for you.
Yeah.
Watched you.
What? Yeah.
He pulled out of it really fast. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
When you
There's
see
probably
somebody
a
in
lot-
that stroke condition like that,
Yeah.
it's a scary time.
Yeah.
Do you have an advantage over when getting sick because you were in the medical field? Or is it a disadvantage because you think about everything? They say doctors make bad patients.
Well, they can make bad patients. I try to make a pretty good patient. I don't know how always, but yeah, I don't think it's an advantage being a doctor that you get better care or anything like that. I don't think
But I
so.
mean, as far as knowing what to do. I mean, why didn't you work on your own heart?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't your field?
Yeah, well, see, I didn't know what to do basically about that. The medications, the shock. See, I had a doctor over at Park Ridge. That was he did about 3 ablations on me, which you go in and do these on the heart, and I wasn't doing any better. He was giving me medication, and then I didn't like him anyway. He was arrogant, and I don't like arrogance. I don't like anybody to be arrogant. I don't give a damn how smart they think they are, or how qualified they are.
They couldn't be too smart if they're arrogant.
Yeah, I don't think so
No,
either.
so-
Anyway, he was that way, but then I got this other doctor that wasn't arrogant, but he gave her the wrong medicine for the AFib. And I had to get, I liked him all right, but then fortunately, when I got that stroke, then they sent me to Dr. Golding, which was the heart doctor that met me there when I came in.
Yeah.
And I was scheduled to see him out on Gun Barrel Road at his office out there one day, and he had to be called away for something else. So Dr. Mannion took his place, and I thank God he did, because Dr. Mannion looked at, checked Henrietta's medication. He said, "My good Lord," he said, "there is no way you've got to be on that." He says that kills people. He went up the roof. He said, "You've got to get off of that." He was really upset about that. So
What did he say about her X-rays?
well, yeah, he went along with the X-rays. You know about the you're talking about
The chest
X-ray. Yeah. Well, you know, then she was getting over the lung thing. He was just mainly with the heart. So the cardiogram and that sort of thing. He wasn't saying so much about that, but he's amazing. He comes up here now once a month, over here at you know, they've got that little area over there, right opposite of Longhorn.
Publix.
Longhorn.
It's that new building.
Yeah.
That's our Langers.
Yeah, that's Earl Langer's thing.
Yeah.
And he's upstairs when we go see him up there. But he couldn't see us the other day because his PA, but she's really good. And I've seen her before, so I didn't mind that. But he comes once in, and he doesn't have to see her but about every 6 months, which makes it fine. So instead of having to travel to Gun Barrel, we can just go over
What are
here.
they going to do for her?
Well, he just wants to regulate her about medication and see how she's doing with it and so forth. And of course, he's not with the sports medicine takes care of her about her hip. Dr. Gerbert did the surgery for her, and she healed real quick on that. But as you're older, it just takes time to get over this. They say people with a broken hip sometimes 3 or 4 years. One of the PA down there, he said his grandmother, I think, took 6 years or so to finally get over it. It was
My uncle
tough.
said that some people die young and the rest of them just suffer.
Yeah, that's about right. Some
But you
die
get
young.
around really good.
Well, I hope
I mean, I
get
know
better.
you're walking slow because your knee, but
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do pretty well, but it's I need to use the cane more than I do, and I'm going to start doing that, and then I'll walk her some. But at any rate,
What you realize with medicine, and we all know this really, so much of it's timing, somebody finding something early and having the right person to diagnose it and treat you.
exactly.
Is-
And if you miss either one of those
Yeah, and the big thing
things that
and-
save you won't save the next
yeah,
guy.
and the big thing about cancer is you
Got to- you got to-
it's all timing on cancer if you get it early. And fortunately, Henrietta's was just beginning.
That is an exception to a cancer. It doesn't really matter once you've got it that you're.
like prostate cancer is so slow.
Yeah, it is. It's slow. That's
Is there
right.
some cancers though, if you've got it, you're going to be terminal?
Well, yes, I think
mean,
so.
What
yeah.
cancers would those be? Where if
Well,
you've got it, there's
yeah,
not
well,
really.
it just depends on the cancer.
Just
There's a lot of-
progressive. Some are really progressive.
And I don't know the names of all of them, the lungs and, what's the skin cancer, the
Melanoma.
Melanoma. And I had a good friend. I was in the book club down at the Episcopal Church, and I really liked, we called him Tiger, Richard Jones. And Richard would talk to me. He'd go to the best cancer center, apparently, in the country is the one at Houston, MD Anderson. And he'd go to MD Anderson, but I think Emory over here is just as good. Jimmy Carter's got a charmed life. You remember Jimmy?
Oh yeah, he got that.
He had a melanoma, and then he had
Brain cancer.
well, he had the end of the brain.
Well, he got that autoimmune.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What do you call that?
Yeah. Okay, I know.
What do you call that?
Yeah, this autoimmune medication.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got that.
Do you think that the new COVID thing where they're doing that biomarkers on their RNA, do you think that's going to maybe prove to be a cancer vaccine?
It could be. It could.
I mean, it's new.
Yeah.
If it's working against that, I mean, if they said what do they call it? They looked at the genome of it or the breakdown of it, and through that they could make a thing a marker on your RNA. So why can't they do that? This may really change medicine. This pandemic may be something that really helps the future.
Yeah, it may very well. And then see, they've got these vaccines now. They've got 3 companies that have a one-time vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, if you come in there and they think they'll give you that one vaccine. Now I've had 2. This one company you have to have 2 shots.
Do you have the Moderna or Pfizer? Pfizer.
I had it wasn't Pfizer, it was the other one.
Moderna, I guess.
Yeah. And we had to have 2 of those, but that was 3 weeks apart.
They say the only difference is the delivery method, that it goes through your system.
Yeah, I think so. But at any rate, both of us have had the vaccine now, and I finally convinced him that he needed to get his vaccine, and he's gotten the first one. And when you schedule it for the next one, they let you know.
Yeah, they do. They got to wait so many weeks.
Yeah.
Get the second one.
Yeah.
I'm planning to get mine next week.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
And he should too.
He's yeah.
Well,
Now let me ask you this. Rumor has it that you are into birds.
Rumor has it right, because I've been into
That
birds.
scared him, didn't it?
Yeah, he wasn't sure where you were going.
Yeah, that scared me.
Yeah.
Rumor has it that I'm into birds. I've been into birds in a big way forever.
What kind of birds?
I just
All kinds.
All kinds.
Are you a bird? Are you a bird watcher?
I am a bird
Used to be,
watcher.
yeah.
And
Well,
I used to take trips. I've been opposite over in the Dry Tortugas over you know.
Now, are you like the guy on Remember when in Gilligan's Island when the bird watcher landed on the beach and he was trying to see this fancy bird, and he got back on the boat and Gilligan forgot to tell him that they were. Is that what you do? You sit in the bushes and watch?
Yeah, you sit in the bushes and watch through the binoculars, or you move around, or you get in a good position where you can, or yes. And I've had, and they've got these groups now. They've got several nature tours that these guys lead bird trips. And one of them was out to Dry Tortugas out of what's the end of
Key West.
out of Key West is about 80 miles, and we spent the night over there. We went over there, and on the way you see all these seabirds, a lot of different seabirds, not just sandpipers, but
How many total birds are there?
well, the total birds used to as a kid when I first got into it, they'd say, how many birds are there? What's the total bird? Well, 8,600, 8,600. Well, they've got over 10,000 now.
What they classifying different types, or they found them?
Well, they found them and they picked up some extra birds over the years, that they hadn't seen before or so forth. So we've got over 10,000 species of birds.
Now, how does anybody know that you've seen a bird that isn't classified? You have to take a picture of it?
Well, some do take pictures of it. Sometimes they've got photographs and so forth, but they have to take your word for it. And you can lie about your list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could sit there and get me a good bird guide, just put a whole bunch of birds on.
Tell Dee how many you have on your list. I forgot. He used to be active.
Yeah, I used to be active. Well, I've probably not got as many as a lot of them that have been active. I've probably got pretty close to a couple thousand.
So you have a book and you're able to say, I saw that one.
Yeah, and and I've done a lot.
Keep a list.
Is it you just write it down on a ledger?
Yeah. Well, you just keep a list.
I saw a purple swallow.
I saw a purple
Place, date.
Yeah, or
time,
what? Yeah,
species.
and then.
What's the point of that?
The point of it is it makes you happy, because you love watching birds.
And that's
And,
it?
and birds, to me, are the most brilliant thing we've got. They've got the most colors, the most beautiful thing in nature. All the especially the male birds over the females. Female birds, a lot of are kind of drab in a lot of ways.
They're easy to make fun of course, bird watchers, but it's a real talent.
It evidently is.
Yeah.
Now, I went to the...
They'll identify by sound, by shadow even, right? You got some guys
Yeah.
that just see a shadow of a
Yeah,
bird
well, see,
and think they can
right,
ID it.
Yeah, and then a lot of
bird song.
I used to really be good at these. There's a lot of migration of these little wobblers that come through in the spring. They'll go from north down to across the Gulf and go over into Central America and on down into, some of them go as far as the tip of Africa down there, and but they migrate. And I used to, I could remember the bird song, and there's a lot of songs I can remember. I walk out in the woods in the spring of the year
So
especially.
they have a distinct song?
They've got a distinct call. Not all of them are singing, but they've got a distinct call. And you can say, well, that's what and you remember it. And the way you remember it, you have to see them do. You have to associate that bird with that sound. And sometimes you get recordings. I've had where I get recordings of bird sounds and memorize some of those. But it's a real talent to be really good bird watcher.
Now, I went on this thing where you got up real early and you went to Chattanooga, and you got in the kayak,
Yeah.
and you floated down the river to the bird banding sanctuary.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
There's nothing there except
Uh-huh.
it's all natural.
Sure, it is.
No bathroom.
And then I've been over to Dayton. We used to go over to Dayton once in the fall, and we'd get the Tennessee Wildlife folks had a boat that they'd take us up to Hiwassee Island, and we'd get off that boat on Hiwassee Island.
That's where I went.
Did you?
Yeah, Hiwassee Island.
Yeah.
But I did the kayak, floated down to it.
Okay, you
Had
floated.
to pack your lunch and everything.
Yeah, see, I didn't do
Yeah.
the kayak thing. I just did the boat.
What-
Yeah, I've been to Hiwassee Island about 3 times.
I just went to once.
Yeah.
But they banned their leg.
Yeah, they do. They banned them. And then up in North Carolina, up toward Robbinsville, they've got a beautiful highway over here. What's the place over there that you go up the river up into North Carolina? What's that?
64 highway.
Well, there's a 64. What do they call that?
Nantahala.
Yeah,
Nantahala.
Nantahala Gorge.
Yeah, Nantahala.
Yeah.
And that is really pretty up there. Yeah, I love that Nantahala.
I do too.
Yeah.
Everybody ought to do that once a year.
Yeah, exactly. They should.
So with some of these birds, do they fly? Like if I see a bird out here on a pond, could it theoretically be going to Africa?
Yeah, sure could. And some of them is amazing how quick they can get down there. It depends upon the size of the bird and the strength and so forth. But these little wobblers, and the hummingbird. This little hummingbird, the ruby throat's the only hummingbird we get usually east of the Mississippi River. You've got several hummingbirds over in the west, over in Arizona and down in that area, but you just usually and over in California. But we've got about 25 or so over there. But here we just have usually the ruby throat. The hummingbirds you see around here almost always, and some are male and some are female. The ruby throat, you see that red throat.
Now the hummingbirds, I'll tell you a funny story. So my wife goes out of town one weekend, and she always has a feeder for the
Bird
the
seed.
hummingbirds.
Yeah.
So, but she mixes it up
Yeah.
and pours it in there because they drink the sweet stuff.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, she leaves it in the refrigerator, right? So she's out of town, so I go in that evening and fixed something to eat and poured me a glass of that hummingbird food, and I ate it, the sandwich, and drunk that stuff, and it was. I thought, well, that's unusually sweet. So
Yeah.
I hadn't done that again.
You haven't done that again. Now this guy over here, you've got to watch him. He likes the mouthwash. He'll drink some mouthwash.
Oh, I
You
know
still-
people that do that.
You still
Yeah.
do mouthwash?
Yeah.
So
You oughtn't to do that.
That's pretty common.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Well, and the mouthwash, I guess, is not that toxic. It's got some alcohol in it, but I
Yeah.
don't think that
I think
much.
you used to have more alcohol.
Yeah. But I didn't know it was that.
How long what was your first thing about birds?
But the first thing about birds was about, my dad died when I was 10, and then Mother and I she liked birds and would talk to them, and then we had a friend that I got to know, and that she'd worked in the laboratory with him, Dr. Herndon. He had a PhD in chemistry, and Leroy Herndon, and he was head of the bird club there that we'd meet once a month or so, and he started taking me on trips, and I learned an awful lot from him.
What is it you like about it?
What?
What is it you like about it? I mean, it sounds like a good hobby.
Well, it is a good hobby. I think it's just fascinating to pick up a new species, to learn another bird. To learn, I think that's where it's at. If you've seen a crow one time, you've seen them a lot of the times, so you don't want to crow, or
And I guess the idea is if you were in these groups, you could say, hey, I saw that specific bird
Yeah.
over here, and so they try to go see if they can see it to put it on their list.
Sure.
But it's another reason just to be closer to nature, get some exercise, and have an interest.
Exactly. That's exactly.
No matter what it is.
Exactly. And see, the three things I like in nature are butterflies and flowers and trees and birds. And
they're all together.
That's all based on land mainly. But then the creatures out in the ocean, I'm fascinated by the ocean too. You've got all these fascinating fish and all.
How do these birds get across the ocean? Do they know the shortest path?
They just hone in on I guess they do, because and this little hummingbird, when he crosses there down there in Texas to go across that Gulf, it's about 500 miles, and he flies non-stop, that little hummingbird.
Now that's not from the United States to Cuba, which is just 90 miles.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he go that way?
Well, he probably is just programmed to go somewhere else.
So this little hummingbird's that big
Yeah,
from East Tennessee
yeah.
will fly as many as 500 miles before. They won't land on anything. Nothing to
No.
land on.
Nothing to land on. And then some of them get killed out there too, because if they have storms or hurricanes or high winds or a lot of drenching rain.
That's like driving to Nashville and back, and Nashville and back, and Nashville and back, in a car.
Yeah.
And they're all programmed to do that, aren't they?
Yeah, they're programmed to do that.
Do
Generations
they know why
generations
they're
back.
going there?
It's just
Yeah,
it's coded in their brains.
Well,
isn't
it's
it?
just it's warmer. They escape the cold just like
How do they know that? Do they go in a pack?
No, not really in the pack. Now the robins that we see all the time around here.
Red robins?
Some of these robins are southern birds that they stay here the year round. We've got mockingbirds that stay here the year round. We've got brown thrashers that do. We've got several that do.
Where do they stay?
In the forest.
But they stay warm.
Yeah, they stay fine. Yeah, they do. But they.
I heard somebody say one day, they said, do you know why these, I guess, ducks that fly in the V, they said,
Yeah.
you know why one line is longer than the other? And I said, no, why? And he said, there's more birds in that line. I was looking for a technical.
Yeah. Well, you know, these sandhill cranes out here. You know, we see those cranes out here on that refuge up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone out there years ago when I first started into this. When I first got into Cleveland, I hadn't been here too long. They would have the. I'm trying to think of the long. What was the? Anyway, it's. They would have all these sandhill cranes. There'd be a few that would come in there and stay for the winter. They had found that they used to go all the way to Florida from Minnesota, and they found our Wisconsin, and they would go and stop off here, and the Forest Service people started feeding them, you know, growing corn for them and giving them crop to be able to have something. And over there now they've got about 7,000 or 8,000 that spend the winter with us.
I think there's a group that goes out there and watches them come in, maybe.
Exactly, I've done that too.
Yeah.
And they've got this hooping crane that is not common. It's in Florida, goes down to Florida, but the hooping, and it goes to Texas, but it's kind of got a white appearance to it more than these do. And but the hooping crane, I saw a few over there. They have programmed them now to hand raise them like their mother or so forth, and then they will follow this light aircraft all the way to Florida. Sometimes to this refuge, they'll lead them down there because the young ones haven't figured out how to do that. So that's interesting too.
But 500 miles with a little bird that a 3-mile-an-hour wind would knock it off course, you'd think.
Sure. That's right. It's amazing. It's amazing. Nature's amazing.
There has to be a creator of this.
There has to be a creator of this, exactly. Yeah, there has to be.
If you don't believe it, look at the hummingbird. 500 miles from Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, actually, it'd be more than that. From Cleveland to where they launch up to go across that Gulf is a couple, 300 miles or so. So their total mileage is more than 500.
You know, if you could put a little thing on its foot and put it on the internet, and people could follow it, they'd watch that. They'd watch that every day more than they would this NASA Mars landing.
Probably.
And you could go on, you could just watch. That would be an interesting thing, wouldn't
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
And then if it crashed, the show would be over.
Yeah. Well, you know, not in our lifetime, but we'll probably see it fairly common one of these days that we can go to Mars.
Oh yeah, with
Yeah.
Elon Musk, and
Yeah.
he says in 2028, I think. And you know, everything he says, it happens. Do you think that one of the inventions, this is getting way off the subject, do you think that teleportation of people could be a possibility? Because that's the last thing that hadn't happened from Star Trek.
I don't know. It might be. Might very well. I don't know.
Quantum physics is weird, that's for sure.
What's
Because
that?
Quantum physics is.
Yeah.
That would be what it would be, right?
Yeah.
Quantum physics?
It would be it'd be a mechanics of quantum physics.
Yeah. And these guys that
Go from here to there without traveling in between.
Yeah.
These
Just,
are the guys that amaze me more than anybody is these astrophysicists. You know, that study the stars.
Yeah.
And
They're studying
and the
something you can't
planets.
see.
You can't see, and you
really can't even prove it.
Yeah, you can't prove it. You've got some of these telescopes that are really great now in Chile and certain areas, but they didn't have before. And they've got one now that they've almost got finished, and it's going to be amazing what they can see. But you talk about light years.
Yeah.
They will say so many light years. A light year, I think, is about 1,000,000 miles. 1 light year, or maybe more.
Yeah.
And no, I'm wrong on that. I
says-
don't know how many a light year is. It's more than 1,000,000 miles, but it is amazing.
Doesn't it take light like maybe 7 years?
Yeah.
The sun that we're seeing.
The sun that we're seeing now, the sun that we are seeing now, when we see it down here, is 8 minutes. It's not. I read that it takes 8 minutes for that light, for it originates to where we see it here. It's 98 million miles away. 98 million miles away.
And there's stuff beyond the sun.
And there's stuff beyond the sun, beyond our solar system. Yeah, we've got all these planets. You know,
yeah, when you're looking at one of those far-off planets in a telescope, that light traveling off that planet was a long time ago.
Long time
kind of
ago.
reaches your eye. That's the point you're making.
Yeah.
Time I see it, that light's been traveling.
It's been traveling a lifetime. Yeah, it's been. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
I believe
amazing
that
to
they will
contemplate.
eventually find out there's aliens.
They're what?
I believe they'll eventually find out there's aliens.
Life.
On other
Yeah.
planets.
Oh, I think you're right. I think so.
And I don't know how it fits in the whole scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
But you think they will?
Yeah, I think so.
You think those people have seen stuff?
Oh yeah, I think so. Maybe. Yeah. But you talk far intelligent more than any of these politicians. These damn politicians, we sit there glued to 2 channels because that's the best we could get over here.
I don't even watch them no more.
Fox News.
I don't watch either one.
Yeah, well, we sit there. Henrietta's glued to the Fox News, and then they repeat it. And then they've got it.
And the more you watch it, the more they say. The more they say of what you're watching.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I think that whatever we're watching, like we get on, like I was looking at a shirt the other day, short sleeve shirt. Now they just keep showing me ads for short sleeve shirts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they've all got a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was looking at one with a pocket. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh yeah, they know exactly what you're
Can't
looking
they
at.
be feeding us our news too?
Oh sure.
They target you.
Now,
Yeah, just
if
like the
they're
internet,
feeding me
they're
the
targeting.
news, maybe it's not even real.
Well, that's true.
I mean,
They know what you want to hear.
They're creating
Every channel knows what the viewers want to hear.
what they want to hear. They know
Yep.
what the audience wants to hear.
Well,
Absolutely.
so here, and these commentators, these pundits.
That's a good gig,
Yeah,
by the way.
that's a good gig.
Yeah.
They're making.
You just have to have an
they're
opinion.
making millions, like Hannity and all these. They're making millions, and we watch them all through the week, and they're repeating the same thing every night.
And we're hanging on every word.
Yeah.
But now I got completely off of it. I don't watch either one of them.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I watch a guy named Scott Adams. I listen to him every day. He goes over all the news of the day. Takes him about 45 minutes, and it's over.
He's done.
It's done.
That's the way it used to be.
And he tries to be non-biased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I just tell me what's up. I'll decide myself what I want to think.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, what kind of hands of these politicians that we got nowadays that we've just we got this president and then all his idiots out there. What kind of world we're going to have in a few years?
Well, I tell you what I was doing. I was watching. This gets crazy, but I was watching Barney Miller. You know, the sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
It was set in the late '60s, early '70s.
Mm-hmm.
They had all the same problems. There's nothing really that new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think
That is the truth.
They had it
It's just
all.
you got more of
They
it.
had it all.
Just hitting you every day
It's
with
hitting us every day,
Yep.
and they're
It's the same
giving
stuff.
it's
Same
the same
issues.
stuff, same issues.
Yeah.
Every issue. Think about the 1960s. They assassinated 2 presidents. They killed Martin Luther King. Rosa Parks wouldn't get on the bus. They had segregation, women's rights. They sent all the kids to Vietnam. They sent 50,000 troops to Chicago. The Black Panthers were having riots. What's different?
Good point. It was more turbulent then than it is
I mean,
now.
think about it.
Really, it was more
And
turbulent then.
all we're trying to do is figure out whether you're a you or a he or a or a her, and we can't say mother or father, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's a smear game.
It's a smear game.
I just smear
And
you.
and
if you don't agree with me, I'm going to smear you.
And with this thing here, if
I like
just,
you agree with me, you're great. You're no good.
yeah, you're no good. Don't buy from me because I don't agree with that.
It's all
And it's
identity.
only the way, because of the way they told me, that made me think we're really thinking about the same. So I think that it ebbs and flows, and I think there's maybe nothing that new. And I tell you who told me this I was eating lunch with Tom Cry. You know Tom?
You do.
You know, he's a good friend of mine. I was talking. He said, "Hey," and he told me about all the stuff. He said, "Quit crying and put on your big boy pants." He said, "I went through the '60s. This ain't nothing."
He's right.
Made
You're
me
right.
feel
There's nothing-
better.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
It's nothing new. Doesn't mean we ignore
Just
it.
accentuating differences.
It's right.
There's money to be made by exploiting people's
That's right.
differences.
The difference is
and-
now they're
and
putting it out
conflict.
there. See,
I like conflict.
I could
Stirring
put
it up.
on here now. I could take a snippet and say, retired Dr. Hughes believes in UFOs, and put it out on the internet, and everybody go see what it meant. But that had nothing to do with the conversation. So we've got to
And you would have a bunch of people that agree with it.
They'd agree
And
with
then the
it,
other people would say he's
and
idiots.
some people
They would say
wouldn't
he's an
watch
idiot.
because I even asked the question. So what we've got to do is not let them influence us.
Absolutely.
We've got to think for ourselves. They say the old saying is you have to be your own doctor, your own lawyer, and your own preacher. Now you have to be your own news journalist
That's true.
That's right.
because nobody knows.
And that used to be what school was for, Dee. We talked earlier.
That's right.
I was to learn to think for myself.
That's right. Learn to think for yourself. That's why they had show and tell on Fridays.
But just because I don't agree with my dad doesn't mean I was indoctrinated by a professor necessarily. I just have a different opinion.
That's true. I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It's because it's all, we're really all just a product.
It's good to have a little bit of doubt about things.
You
And
have
when
to
people
have doubt.
they're all in about everything. Like you said,
You have to take it out. They will say, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
yeah, some skepticism about things.
We
I
can't
need to know more.
we can't let our past experiences necessarily dictate what we're going to think. It's like say I look at this wind glass and I say, you see that broken glass? And you say, yeah. I say, what does it look like to you? You say, it's broken glass. But if I say, can't you see that horse's head? And you look at it and say, I can kind of see that horse's head now. You can never look at that glass again without seeing that horse's
That's
head.
true.
And you weren't even thinking about it before. And I could never change your
No, that's
mind
a really
that it
good
doesn't
point.
look
You
like
put
a
that,
horse.
but you putting that in my head.
Now,
There's
what
a
else
horse.
what else have we all put in all of our heads? And that gets scary.
Yeah.
I was talking to another guy the other day. He said his father-in-law had Alzheimer's and came downstairs and he was talking about his mother that was something that happened 20 years ago. He thought it was then.
Yeah.
And he said, but I wasn't sure who was crazy, me or him. Maybe he was the one that was. Maybe he was the one that's delusional. But isn't it fun? Life is thinking, deciding, trying to understand,
Feeling.
feeling, watching the birds. If we didn't have all that stuff, what's the point in all of this? I mean, what's the point? So you have to get out and try to enjoy something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even if you don't really like it, at least find something.
Mm-hmm.
Passion for something. Yeah.
Have a passion, I think's the word.
Yeah. I tell you, talking of passion, one of the best chapters I've read in the Bible, and you probably know it too, and of course Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are all written by different people. Matthew was a Jew writing for Jews, and he was just like a common kind of guy, but he was detailing Jesus' activities, the way he thought, and he chronologically was trying to match it up. And then you had Mark, which was he was into what was Mark into? He portrayed Christ a little bit different. Then you had
Luke, who's a doctor, right?
and Luke
a
was
physician.
Luke was a doctor. And
so he was looking at it. He was looking at the glass a little different, wasn't he?
yeah,
Maybe?
he was. Luke was and he's just like a friendly family physician. You know, that was what Luke was about, and he was just trying to make Christ as human as he could. And then we had John, which is not part of the Synoptic Gospels, which John was a little bit different, but John was trying to portray Christ as, I think, mainly two natures. He had, who was the one that, I guess it was Mark that I was trying to remember, that he was trying to say that Jesus sacrificed, and then he was trying to be he would sacrifice and trying to help people too. But then in John, I always remember that first few lines of John, which was, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. And then in the beginning, He was the Word, and He was God. And then the third verse, I think, was all things were made by Him, and nothing made that was made that wasn't made was Him. And then He was the light of the world. And then you've got all these beautiful passages in the Bible. You've got and the Psalms I love.
Now those people were all the apostles. They actually knew Him.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
I know you, like you know me.
Yeah,
They knew them better.
Yeah, he did. And then see, Luke wrote Acts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke wrote Acts too. So he had two epistles he really wrote. He wrote Acts and he wrote Luke, and then I think the reason they called it Acts, I think they had a designation of that somewhere. It was Acts of the people
Of the apostles.
Of the apostles on the upper
Yeah.
room, and describing all that. But
but they all portrayed it pretty close to the same thing, just their version.
Exactly.
But it was about the same.
It was about the same, and it was all about the Middle East.
Yeah.
Most of these were Jewish writers from the Middle East.
That's
the Bible was written mainly by Jews
Hebrews.
from the Middle East.
Except
Israelites.
What about Josephus?
Josephus, I've forgotten about Josephus. He was up there.
Because he wrote. He was supposed to give
Historian.
fake news, right?
Yeah, he was supposed to give fake news.
He was an
Well, we-
historian.
and when Jesus was in the tomb, who was the guy Joseph was a rich man, and he wanted to place him in a different tomb, and so they let him do that.
He was afraid they'd have tomb robbers, right?
Yeah, and that's right. He's afraid he's going to get tomb
Yeah.
robbers, and so he didn't want that. So he bought this tomb, Golgotha, and that's where they placed
The angel.
Yeah, Golgotha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he dressed Jesus after he came down from that cross. He dressed him in linen, fine linen, and put him in that tomb. And he said, you've got to roll a rock, and you know, he had to watch people out there to watching his tomb, but he said you got to roll this have this rock to lock him in that tomb. So they rolled this big rock over there, and then the next day, you had these women that were following him, Mary Magdalene and Martha and Mary, another Mary, Jesus' mother. So they were following Jesus, and then they came out early in the morning, and they had
That's where they get the Shroud of Turin.
yeah, probably so. Yeah,
Or they're not sure.
not sure about that. And then I think the women saw that the rock was rolled away. About the time they got there early in the morning, they had a loud earthquake, a loud earthquake, and then the rock was rolled away, and they went in there and they saw an angel in there, and the angel told him that he was risen, and they could see him up in further up in Judea.
He was already
In Galilee.
in Galilee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they said you could see him along the way. You could see him along the way. So they
And
went.
you know, that was on Easter.
Yeah,
What are the odds? And this is Easter,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the third day.
The third day.
Here we are.
yeah.
But we could go forever, couldn't we?
Well,
Dad's had an interesting life.
well,
People his age had interest. They've lived through a lot.
They've lived through a lot.
A lot
Yeah.
of different things.
yeah. I have. I've had a fairly interesting life. Army, medical school, this son, and this
Raising children.
daughter.
Yeah.
and this wife. Yeah, I've had an interesting life, contending with the three of them. Now they've all been.
Do you
fine.
look forward to the next 10 years?
I don't know where I do or not. What about you?
I do. I have to.
Well, sure.
I mean,
Well, I need to do that too. I have to.
Don't-
I'm 86, so I hope I can make it another 10 years.
but don't you want to stay? You almost feel we have to stay here and help the other ones, right?
Yeah,
Help our kids and the grandkids and the
exactly.
You know, a good friend of mine one day, I said, boy, do you ever get burnt out? And he said, yeah, I get real burnt out. And I said, how do you get over it? And he said, I'll just look at my kids. And so I think about that, and I think, well, there's your reason if you need one.
I agree. See the important events of their life.
Yeah.
You want to be
and,
there
and
for them.
help them.
And help them
And,
when you
and
can.
you want to be there to say, hey, that's okay. Don't worry about that.
Yep.
Well, listen, it's been great.
It has been
We
great.
got to do this again. We could go on.
Yeah,
I could go for another 2 or 3 hours.
Well, see, I'm fascinated by your intellect. I knew you wasn't stupid,
Well,
but
I-
I really know now that you're really not stupid.
It's either, well, it may be like, maybe I'm just good at faking it.
Yeah, well, I fake a little too. I guess we all could
We
fake.
all do. We all have
We
to.
could
at
also
times.
fake a little.
But I really appreciate you coming. Let's really do it again.
Well, let's do it.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. And I appreciate you asking.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, this is my favorite one all week.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dee.
All right.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
thank
For having
you
me
very
in here,
much.
Shannon.
I appreciate you.
Dr. Hughes,
Thank you.
thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.